Every day, Jamaicans have something to say. In the group chats, on social media, in the streets, there's a place where it all comes together. The comment section. This is not a lecture. This is not a call-in show. This is the hottest topics of the day, filtered through real opinions, real WhatsApp messages, real voice notes, real reactions. You agree, disagree, sound off, text it, voice note it, debate it. Comments section, Monday to Friday from 7 to 7:30 p.m. only on Nationwide 90 FM, the new revolution in media.
Public opinion.
Stop this foolish about this GLP and PMP business. We are a Jamaican.
Different people.
It's not a matter of a GLP or a PMP. I think it's more like where it is that you think you're comfortable, what support you can afford to make the country better.
Different views.
Most entertainers, they're not amenable to management, so the only thing that can ultimately structure them is the court and the prison.
Public opinion. The voice of the people at 6:25 p.m. weekdays during Nationwide at 5. Tune into Nationwide at 6:25 p.m. for Public Opinion, where the people's views matter.
Public Opinion is brought to you by Cleasing Industrial Supplies Limited, Industrial Automation and Control Solutions.
Ready to tackle that building project? Start right. Start here at H&L Rapid True Value for building supplies. The time by H&L Rapid True Value is
Nationwide time, 5 o'clock.
News at 5 teasers are brought to you by Advanced Scales and Equipment. Service is our total commitment.
From the Nationwide News Network, comprehensive, incisive, tough. This is Nationwide at 5.
Good afternoon, I'm Ricardo Brooks.
And I'm Robian Williams.
In Nationwide News, at this hour, the police commissioner hits back at critics of the police body camera rollout.
He accuses them of telling outright lies about the force's willingness to deploy the technology.
Prime Minister Andrew Holness warns Jamaicans against being sympathetic to youngsters who join gangs.
There are not some disadvantaged youngsters who are on the fringe of the society. No. Not every youth in the ghetto takes up a gun and becomes a criminal.
Journalist Zara Burton floats lawsuit against the government over failure to update Access to Information Act.
We need to sue the government. We need to have specific timelines in law for these amendments to occur.
Works Minister says poor patching not the only cause of bad roads across the country.
In news from the rest of the world, Antigua and Barbuda defends recruitment of Ghanaian nurses.
Trump cancels tariff threat over Greenland.
In sports, Afghanistan close in on series sweep after beating West Indies in Dubai for second straight game.
And later in our broadcast, in the cover story at 5:35, the Prime Minister has pledged that Jamaica's economic independence will not be derailed as it has in the past by ideological fantasy.
Jamaica has been diverted into all kinds of ideological fantasies that resulted in us wandering in the wilderness of economic despair.
What does that mean for the country standing on the world stage? We'll get reactions from immediate past president of the MSME Alliance, Donovan Wignall, trade unionist Helene Davis White, and president of the Jamaica Employers Federation, Wayne Chen.
In Public Opinion at 6:26, we ask, are you satisfied with the state of roads across the country? Give us your comments by logging on to our Facebook page, Nationwide News Network, and by tweeting us at Nationwide Radio, and message us on WhatsApp at 876-285-5693. You can also leave your comments on Instagram at Nationwide 90 FM.
In the nation's business at 6:40, founder of 18 Degrees North, Zara Burton, is calling for the government to be sued over what she says is its failure to amend the Access to Information Act in a timely manner. We'll hear from Ms. Burton and JFJ's policy research and advocacy specialist, Jade Williams.
At 7, Prime Minister of Barbados, Mia Mottley, has called snap elections. Barbadian political analyst Peter Wickham will join us.
All these and more as we take you home on air on your mobile Nationwide 90 FM, RevaNews.ai, and on the Reva News app available on the Google Play and the App Store. This Wednesday afternoon, Wednesday, January 21, 2026.
News at 5 teasers were brought to you by Advanced Scales and Equipment. Service is our total commitment.
If it's news, it's got to be Nationwide 90 FM.
And now to the details. Police Commissioner Dr. Kevin Blake is again defending the force's record on body-worn cameras, rejecting claims the force has resisted the rollout of the devices. In the latest edition of the force orders, the commissioner accused critics of spreading what he called deliberate falsehoods about the initiative. Robin Williams reports.
The police commissioner is pushing back hard against what he describes as a sustained campaign of misinformation surrounding the force's body-worn camera program. He dismissed claims that the JCF has stalled the rollout of the devices because of unresolved infrastructure challenges, calling the narrative lies and direct misleading. Dr. Blake says the digital systems required to support body-worn cameras have been in place since 2023 and that the force has already moved into the procurement and deployment phase. He adds that 1,000 cameras were acquired and delivered last year and have largely been rolled out, with another 1,000 now in the pipeline. Despite this, the commissioner says some commentators continue to tell the public that the JCF is still waiting on infrastructure. He suggested that the persistence of the narrative is driven more by self-interest than genuine concern, arguing that portraying the JCF as resistant to reform helps to sustain the relevance of critics. He also challenged claims that recent reductions in violent crime are linked to unlawful police conduct, insisting that the force's success is the result of effective and sensible strategies. Dr. Blake points out that hundreds of suspects are arrested each year for firearm-related offenses without lethal force being used. He's urging advocacy groups and commentators to redirect their efforts toward discouraging armed criminals from confronting the police. He also sought to reassure rank-and-file members, pledging that the force's leadership will continue to support members who act within the law and in the interest of protecting lives. Dr. Blake says, remain calm in the noise and confident that your leadership will always stand with you once you act within the law and in the interest of protecting life and society. The statement comes amid continued public debate over police accountability and the role of body-worn cameras in operations involving fatal shootings. 22 Jamaicans have been killed in alleged police confrontations since the start of the year. More than 300 were killed in similar confrontations last year. Robianne Williams for Nationwide News.
Meanwhile, Prime Minister Dr. Andrew Holness says the government is ready to supply the police with the necessary technology it needs to fight crime in an effective and responsible manner. He says this includes body-worn cameras.
The government will supply the necessary budget to ensure that all formations that require the use of body-worn cameras are so equipped. It is the intention of the government to provide the security forces with all equipment that they need to ensure that their policing is transparent and that there is a process of capturing data, their interaction, to make it evidentiary and to make it prosecutable so that we can ensure that there is confidence and trust in the actions of the police.
Prime Minister Dr. Andrew Holness. He was speaking at the JCF's passing out parade and awards ceremony on Wednesday.
And Prime Minister Holness is urging well-thinking Jamaicans not to be swayed by what he says are false narratives describing gangs as simply groups of disenfranchised citizens. Instead, he says they represent a grave threat to the legitimacy of the Jamaican state. Dr. Holness says his administration remains resolute in dismantling organized criminal networks as it works to build a peaceful society. Shalois Michael reports.
According to the JCF, the country is already seeing a 45% reduction in homicides since the start of the year. This coming from the fewer than 700 murders recorded last year, the lowest in 3 decades. Speaking at the Jamaica Stock Exchange's 21st Regional Investments and Capital Markets Conference on Tuesday, Dr. Holness says the feat is not mere luck.
Let me be clear, this is not a fluke. In 2023, we had an 8% reduction. In 2024, we had a 19% reduction. And in 2025, we have had a 42% reduction. We have been very clinical, very strategic, very deliberate, and very committed. And there are still those who are trying to find all kinds of reasons to say it is not real. We established Plan Secure Jamaica, and we backed it with a $90 billion budget, investing in our security forces, and we are now reaping the results.
Dr. Holness says the next phase of the plan is to move the society to peace. He says organized criminal enterprises will have no place in this plan. Critics often argue that gangs are just young people crippled by family instability, poverty, and lack of opportunities. But Dr. Holness is rejecting this characterization.
If unchecked, they become a challenge to the state. That is what was happening in Jamaica. Whenever that happens, if it is not checked, the end result of it is Haiti. The narrative is very limited and does not acknowledge that we face that threat. But I am not fooled. Neither am I deterred by the shallow narratives that are in the public space about what we have to do to reduce this threat. We have reduced it, and we continue to erode it.
Instead, Dr. Holness says Jamaicans must choose to help build a society of peace.
There are not some disadvantaged youngsters who are on the fringe of the society. No. Not every youth in the ghetto takes up a gun and becomes a criminal. Until our society stands up in unison and say no more of this, until we get rid of this ambivalence in the society, we'll always be at risk. It is a cost to our country. Those people who do that must face consequences. Let this be the decade when Jamaica truly attains peace.
Shalois Michael for Nationwide News.
Founder of 18 Degrees North, Zara Burton, is calling for the government to be sued over what she says is its failure to update the Access to Information Act in a timely manner. The senior journalist was speaking at a public forum put on by Jamaicans for Justice in St. Andrew on Wednesday. She believes the government should be required by legislation to implement recommendations to the act.
I think, not in a hostile way, that we need to sue the government, meaning that we have been hearing these very hopeful, these promissory notes. I still don't understand why the 2011 different recommendations never got to the point of getting to a bill to be implemented. I don't get that part. Maybe some explanation could be there. But regardless, we need to have specific timelines in law for these amendments to occur so that they can be implemented.
The Access to Information Act permits Jamaicans to gain access to information regarding public conduct of ministries, agencies, and departments. Burton did not explain on what specific basis she would be taking legal action, but she says the government has failed to treat the law with the urgency it deserves.
When it comes to the emergent way in which the Access to Information Act needs to be revamped, I would give our government an F. There has to be more emergency put on this. Post-cabinet press briefings after Hurricane Melissa, and of course we're in emergency times, I had specifically asked for the Access to Information Act to be revamped under emergency legislation so that some of these exemptions that have typically applied could be relaxed and we should be able to get information. And I was told by the Information Minister, Dana Morris-Dixon, that that's just not a priority of the government right now.
Zara Burton, founder of 18 Degrees North.
Meanwhile, Executive Director of the National Integrity Action, NIA, Professor Trevor Monroe, believes civil society and media groups can pressure the government into action by signing a petition.
Perhaps the PAJ ought to consider asking all journalists, not just the executive, to sign a petition, give it to our good minister, as well as other civil society bodies, and say, we are proposing what was agreed in 14 years ago, 2011, and its reform in terms of the current review that is being proposed to see to what extent those recommendations need to be updated. This be done in accordance with the Constitution of Jamaica.
Professor Trevor Monroe, and he is the former Executive Director of NIA. And Executive Director of the Jamaica Accountability Meter Portal, JAMP, Jeanette Calder, agrees that citizen action may force an amendment to the law.
Much has been done and can be done with it where it is now. However, I can only imagine the change that will be possible if we could really get those timelines and get the needle moving. But am I expecting that? No, not without citizens weighing in, if we're going to look at the past as a guideline.
Jeanette Calder, Executive Director of JAMP. They were speaking at a public forum held by Jamaicans for Justice on Wednesday.
The youth arm of the governing Jamaica Labour Party, Young Jamaica, is calling on opposition spokesman on health, Dr. Alfred Dawes, to reveal whether a company owned by a PMP Member of Parliament received 12 dialysis machines imported for public use. The Auditor General reported that in 2024, the University Hospital of the West Indies tax exemption status was inappropriately used to import dialysis machines into the country. The issue is reportedly being probed by the police fraud squad. Young Jamaica is also calling on Dr. Dawes to declare whether he's of the view that the actions described by the Auditor General amounts to an act of defrauding the Jamaican state and has disenfranchised poor Jamaicans. The group says, given Dr. Dawes' relationship with his PMP colleagues in Parliament, it should not be beyond him to find the truth and tell the Jamaican people. This comes after the group on Monday rejected Dr. Dawes' claims that he has no affiliation with Jackden Pharma and Medical Services. Dr. Dawes made the claim in a post to his Instagram account in what he says was a response to persistent rumors about his involvement with the company. The company is owned by East Central St. Andrew Member of Parliament, the PMP's Dennis Gordon. Dr. Dawes has denied any wrongdoing. You're listening to the news on Nationwide at 5. We'll have more after these.
See twice the style for less at IQ Optical. Buy one pair of glasses and get your second and third pair half price. Don't miss out. Call 876-929-7732 or visit IQ Optical today, where clarity never looked sharper.
The time by IQ Optical is...
It's 15 minutes after 5.
Termites, rodents, or birds infesting your home or office? Call Rentokil Initial, the pest expert, at 876-926-4236 for a free pest assessment island-wide. The temperature brought to you by Rentokil Initial is
29 degrees Celsius in Kingston, 28 out west in Montego Bay.
This season is the time. Digicel is gifting smiles. Gift a smile, gift a smile, gift a smile. 64 people to win a grand prize. 250K to help you to gift a smile. Plus groceries and farming supplies. Keep your loved ones in mind. Gift a smile. Sharing the love from me to you. Samsung tablet video and your crew. Gift a smile, gift a smile. This season, make sure everybody good. Digicel is helping you to gift a smile, gift a smile, gift a smile.
Continuing the news, Works Minister Robert Morgan has admitted that recent road patching efforts in some areas have proven not to be durable.
It is very easy to say the patching has not held up. Of course, there are areas where it hasn't held up because those areas, patching would not hold up in those areas. And I can give you an example, Long Hill. That section near the Guangu Tree and Long Hill is not going to hold up because there are other issues associated with the road that needs a more permanent fix. And you can look at Washington Boulevard. There's an NWC pipe under the road that needs to be replaced, but it's going to take a significant amount of money to replace it. I have the memory of where we were a year ago, as I have the chronicles of where we patched and what has held up and what has not held up. 100% of it has not held up because it couldn't possibly have held up where you have significant amount of water running on the road that requires a significant engineering.
The minister was responding to criticisms of the poor state of the roads in several areas. This is despite recent road patching efforts. The government launched at least 2 multi-million-dollar road repair programs last year. Speaking on Nationwide's Consumer Hour on Wednesday, Minister Morgan stressed that there's a lack of accountability from other stakeholders in charge of road maintenance.
not all roads in Jamaica belong to the NWA. I'm a very visible minister. I try to be as responsive as possible. But a large percentage of the roads that we repair are not us. And people say, well, the NWA, because the NWA is visible, or the Minister of Works is visible. Yeah, hold me accountable as the Minister of Works, but hold the other people who are responsible for works as well. And that's why we're saying, let us try to have a one road authority.
Yes, and I wish we can get closer to that quickly.
The NWA, we can hold the parish council, we can hold the RADA, we can hold the private developers accountable.
Robert Morgan, Minister with responsibility for works.
Meanwhile, the minister says Cabinet has given approval for the policy framework for the One Road Authority.
Cabinet would have approved the policy perspective on the One Road Authority on Monday, and I'm supposed to meet with Minister Mackenzie today, so we can start our consultations on what it is that we need to do from a municipal cooperation perspective through the ministerial local government and from a central government perspective. Despite what you may have heard, it is not the intention of the government to get into a war with parish councils to take away their power. It is an opportunity for us to work together to give members of the public better service, so they can say, yes, there is a website I can go on to know who is responsible for my road, when is my road going to be repaired.
Robert Morgan, the Works Minister.
World in a Minute is brought to you by ABC Electrical Sales. We make things as easy as ABC.
And Charles O'Connor Consulting Network, COCN, driven by international accounting standards, modern technology and integrity.
The World in a Minute.
The government of Antigua and Barbuda is again defending its decision to recruit health workers from Ghana. It says the move is aimed at addressing serious staffing challenges within the country's healthcare system. According to the country's health minister, Sir Malwin Joseph, the shortage of nurses has long affected the delivery of healthcare services. He noted that Antigua has consistently struggled to maintain an adequate number of nurses, leading to public concerns about burnout and excessive workloads among existing staff.
President Donald Trump announced Wednesday that he was canceling his planned tariff increases on U.S. allies in Europe over the control of Greenland. Trump's comments come after he and the leader of NATO agreed to a framework of a future deal on Arctic security. The abrupt about-face emerged hours after President Trump insisted that he wanted to get Greenland, including right, title, and ownership. But the U.S. president said he would not use force to do so, while deriding European allies and vowing that NATO should not try to block U.S. expansionism. In an extraordinary speech at the World Economic Forum, Trump said he was asking for territory that was cold and poorly located. He said the U.S. had effectively saved Europe during World War II and even declared of NATO that what he was seeking was a very small ask.
World in a Minute is brought to you by ABC Electrical Sales. We make things as easy as ABC. Hose assembly and supply, equipping Jamaica for success.
And Charles O'Connor Consulting Network, COCN, driven by international accounting standards, modern technology and integrity.
Recapping the top stories making nationwide news at this hour, Police Commissioner hits back at critics of the body camera rollout.
He accuses them of telling outright lies about the force's willingness to deploy the technology.
Prime Minister Dr. Andrew Holness is warning Jamaicans against being sympathetic to youngsters who join gangs.
There are not some disadvantaged youngsters who are on the fringe of the society. No. Not every youth in the ghetto takes up a gun and becomes a criminal.
Journalist Zara Burton floats lawsuit against the government over failure to update Access to Information Act.
We need to sue the government. We need to have specific timelines in law for these amendments to occur.
That's Zara Burton. I'm Ricardo Brooks.
And I'm Robianne Williams.
Listeners, you can find the news on our website at rivanews.ai and on the Riva News app, available on the Google Play and the App Store. News next. The headlines at 6.
Discover opportunities. Build connections that shape your future. Join the Jamaica Stock Exchange for its 21st Regional Investments and Capital Markets Conference, January 20 through 22, 2026, at the Jamaica Pegasus Hotel in Kingston, under the theme Capital Markets Fueling Economic Resurgence and Resilience. Come here, Prime Minister Dr. Andrew Holness and Finance Minister Mrs. Fayval Williams, Mr. Gregory Fisher of Jefferies, Mr. Livingston Morrison of Jamaica Stock Exchange, Mr. Angus Young of NCB Capital Markets, and more notable speakers. Seats are limited. Register now at jscregionalconference.com or call 876-967-3271.
Stepping confidently into a new year starts with one simple, powerful word. Yes! Say yes to new beginnings. Say yes to a secure future. Say yes to living the life you love with your family. With health and life insurance from Sagicor Life. We're here to give you the protection and peace of mind you deserve in 2026. All you have to do is say yes to what matters most. Call 888-SAGICOR to speak with an advisor today.
We know the recovery after Hurricane Melissa hasn't been easy. That's why Flow is here to support our customers every step of the way. Flow has been issuing rebates to customers who experienced service disruptions as part of our commitment to doing right by you. Your bill is created automatically, so you may still receive one as usual. But if you're due a rebate, you'll see it clearly listed as an adjustment on that same bill. We encourage you to take a moment to review your statement to confirm the credited amount. And if your service is still offline because of Hurricane Melissa, rebates will continue until service is restored. Rebates are issued twice per month. If it's not reflected on your current bill, it should appear on the next bill. At Flow, our focus is on fairness, transparency, and making sure our customers feel supported. Thank you for your patience, your loyalty, and your understanding as we work to fully restore service across all affected communities.
Hello, good afternoon, and welcome to sports here on Nationwide 90 FM. I'm Wayne Walker. We start with news on cricket. The West Indies lost the second T20 International to Afghanistan by 39 runs at the Dubai International Stadium on Wednesday, and they now trailed 2-0 in the three-match series. The Afghans posted their highest T20 score against the West Indies, 189 for 4, surpassing the 181 they made in Game 1 on Monday. Darwish Rasuli cracked a top score of 68 and shared in a third wicket stand of 115 with Sadiqul Atal, who weighed in with 53. Matthew Ford claimed the 2 wickets for 25 runs. There was a wicket apiece for Ramon Simmons and Shamar Joseph. The West Indies then failed in their bid to level the series after crashing to 150 all out, and that came in 18 overs and 5 balls. Only captain Brandon King with an even 50 and Shimron Hitmar, who made 46 of 17 balls, got any scores of worth as Mujibu Ohirman bagged the 4 wickets for 21 runs. And the captain Brandon King says despite the defeat, there are positives to take away from the game.
I feel the bowlers have done well. Monty in the first game obviously bowled a really good spell. Jaden as well in the first game. I think Matty came back well in this game, bowled some good spells, and obviously Hetty played and Samson played some good innings in these few games. So there's some positives to look at.
And the West Indies will now look to avoid the sweep when they take on the Afghans in the third and final game. And that will come your way on Thursday morning, Jamaica time, starting at 9:30.
Just looking for improvement in all 3 departments of the game. Obviously, fielding for sure, we dropped a few catches again this game, and, that will help us to restrict them to a lower total. Obviously, we want some better starts with the back to set up the foundation for the back end, the hitters to finish the game. So, improvement all around, and hopefully we'll just get better with each game.
That's standing West Indies T20 captain Brandon King. Now, Jamaica ended its campaign in the T20 Blaze, the regional women's T20 Blaze. They beat Trinidad and Tobago on Wednesday by 3 wickets at Arnes Vale in St. Vincent under the Duckworth-Lewis method. The Jamaicans raced to 79 for 7, and that came in 15 overs and 2 balls after restricting the Trinis for 76 to 8 in 17 overs in a game that was interrupted by rain. Shady Nation, she led the way for the Jamaican team with 24. Former captain Stefani Taylor weighed in with 21. The chief wicket taker for Trinidad was Brianna Haricharan, who bagged 3 wickets for 14 runs. Taylor had earlier bagged impressive 3 for 9 to restrict the Trinidadians to 76 for 8. As I mentioned, there were 2 wickets each for Vanessa Watt and Nisha and Waysam. Jamaica ended the tournament with 2 wins and 3 defeats, and they will now turn their attention to the 50-over competition, which will get underway next week. In the meantime, Barbados, they booked a spot in Friday's final of the T20 Blaze. They'll take on the undefeated Leeward Islands in that final on Friday, and this after beating Barbados a short time ago. The Bajans made 92 for 8 in their 20 overs, and they then dismissed the Guyanese for a lower total, clearly. Later on tonight, the Leeward Islands will take on the Windward Islands. That game also at Arnesville, and it's set to bowl off at 6 o'clock Jamaica time, and that's a final game in the preliminary stage of the competition. So they go on to the final on Friday and then get ready for the 50-over tournament, which starts next week. And of course, the West Indies team is back in action at the ICC Under-19 Cricket World Cup on Thursday morning Jamaica time, starting at 2 in the morning. They'll take on the South African team in a game that both teams, well, certainly have to win if they're going to make progress. The Young West Indies are 3rd in the group, and of course it's behind the leaders Afghanistan, who have won all 3 of their group games. South Africa are 2nd. They're on the same 2 points as the West Indies, but they are ahead of the West Indies via a better net run rate. As I mentioned, it's a virtual must-win for West Indies in particular, because South Africa at the minute are ahead, so the West Indies can't afford anything but a victory. The West Indies opened the tournament with an impressive win over Tanzania, but they lost out to the Afghans in their second game. Montego Bay United, they're back in a 6-point lead in the Ray and Nephew Jamaica Premier League. They whipped, of course, the Spanish Town Police team by 5-0 a short time ago at the Royal Lakes of Playfield over in Spanish Town. There were 5 different scorers for the former champions. Devereaux McKenzie set them on the way in minute 20. The score was doubled 2 minutes later. Akimo Jones was the man on target. Then it was a 3-0 on the hour mark. Jameer Clark. Dwight Merrick made it 4-0 in the 64th minute. And guess who applied the gloss in the 72th minute? The man they called JJ, that's Jordan Fletcher. Mobe, they are now on 39 points and they're well clear of second place Racing, who are on 33 points. There's another game on today. In fact, Cavalier, the defending champions, they're leading at the minute. They're leading Dunbeholden by 1-0 over at Stadium East. It should just about be half-time at the moment. And the man who got the goal was, of course, Quayne Thompson. He scored that goal on minute 36. And finally in sports at this time, Liverpool moved a step closer to securing a place in the round of 16 of the European Champions League. Today they were really on the go. They smashed Olympique Marseille by 3-0 in France. Dominique Szoboszlai, the Hungarian international, Cody Gakpo from the Netherlands, they got the goals. There was also an own goal in the mix as Liverpool completed a really impressive 3-0 win.
Szoboszlai hits it, scores! Well, I got the corner right. Well, it's another one from outside the box for Dominic Szoboszlai. But instead of sticking it into the top corner, he aimed for the bottom corner. Cheeky free kick, perfectly executed, and Liverpool with their fans celebrating. Liverpool have got 4 in the box, plus Frimpong now as he bursts towards the dead ball line, and he plays it through, it takes the deflection, it's gone in. It's a lovely touch. Dominic Szoboszlai to Ryan Gravenberch, and on the move here again, Liverpool. It's Cody Gakpo, 4-3, and he gets it. Well, that's a fantastic way to finish an excellent night in the Champions League for Liverpool.
Certainly was. Of course, they're now up to 4th Liverpool in the standings. I think all the teams have one more game to play in the preliminary round. And in other games today, Bayern Munich, they all but secured second place, which would give them the return leg in all the knockout games going forward. Today, they were really impressive. They defeated the Union Saint-Golo by 2-0. FC Barcelona, they outscored Slavia Prague by 4-2 in the Czech Republic. And Newcastle United, they were also flying today. They beat PSV Eindhoven by 3-0 at St. James's Park. And that will do it for sports at the minute. We're going to be back though at 6:05 with our major sportscast.
For all your custom framing, printing, graphic design, and purchase of art, Make It Frame Art Jamaica Limited, serving you for over 40 years. The time by Frame Art Jamaica is
5:32.
For all your electrical needs, visit ABC Electrical Sales. They stock a wide variety of electrical supplies including plugs, switches, panel boards and conduits, plus energy-saving fixtures. ABC Electrical Sales stocks brands like GE, Siemens, Philips, Cutler Hammer and Allen Bradley. They also offer free island-wide delivery just to suit your needs. Visit them at Shop 8, Hagley Park Plaza, Kingston 10, or call 876-754-3714-5 or 876-754-3825-8. ABC Electrical Sales, for a better choice in the electrical business.
This season is the time. Digicel is gifting smiles. Gift a smile, gift a smile, gift a smile. 64 people to win a grand prize. 250K to help you to gift a smile. Plus groceries and farming supplies. Keep your loved ones in mind. Gift a smile. Sharing the love from me to you. Samsung tablet video and your crew. Gift a smile, gift a smile. This season, make sure everybody good. Digicel is helping you to gift a smile, gift a smile, gift a smile.
Managing your investments with Sagicor is now easy as ever. You can fund stocks, repos, and do more seamlessly. Even get a clear overview of your portfolio performance on the enhanced Sagicor eBank platform. Want to experience effortless investment banking on Sagicor eBank? It's as easy as ever. Contact your Sagicor Investment Wealth Advisor today and update your personal information for access. Call 888-SAGICOR or visit sagicor.com for more information.
If it's in the public's interest, it's the nation's business during Nationwide at 5. The nation's business.
The news cycle doesn't end on Friday. It needs perspective. That's why every Sunday at midday, Nationwide 90 FM presents The Week That Was. A clear, informed review of the top stories that shaped the past week, what really mattered and what lies ahead. No noise, no theatrics, just analysis, context, and clarity. The Week That Was. Sundays at 12 noon with a repeat at 6 p.m. Understand the news before the week begins. Only on Nationwide 90 FM, a new revolution in media.
It's the weekend and the youth are taking over the airwaves. Yes, we are the new voices and faces of the Talk Up You radio show. The voice of the Jamaican youth right here on Nationwide 90 FM.
After a busy week of work and school, come and wine with Jamaica's #1 youth radio show.
We're bringing you entertainment, fun facts, and staying true to youth development and advocacy.
Catch the action each and every Saturday as we roll out buzzy segments. What say you?
Youth for chat,
life skills,
global connect, and Bust the Youth.
That's the Talk Up Youth radio show. Saturdays 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. on Nationwide 90 FM. Talk Up Youth, Miss Effie.
Talk Up Youth. Don't miss it.
Good God have mercy. Every day brings its own pressure. Noise, bills, stress. The things that weigh us down and affect our well-being. That's why Nationwide 90 FM has created Wellness, a daily program designed to guide your focus on your physical, mental, emotional, and financial health. Real conversations, trusted experts, practical advice. No judgment and no quick fixes. Just meaningful steps towards better living. Wellness, weeknights from 7:30 to 8 p.m. Only on Nationwide 90 FM. Because progress is a process. It happens one day at a time.
As a parent, you give your children a good start in life. You nurture, protect, and guide them. Parenting is a process that prepares your child for independence. As your child grows and develops, there are many things you can do to help your child. Stay tuned to The Big Show, Nationwide this morning, for parenting tips. Fridays at 6:53 a.m. Only here will you learn everything you need to know about parenting. Tips to help parents navigate the incredibly challenging and rewarding journey of child rearing. parenting tips on Nationwide at 90 FM, the revolution in media.
Good afternoon to you. Thank you so much for joining us here on Nationwide at 5. It's time for the cover story. I'm Ricardo Brooks.
My name is Sanjay Lewis. Good afternoon to you, Ricardo, and good afternoon to our listeners. Well, for the cover story, the Prime Minister, Dr. Andrew Holness, has pledged that Jamaica's economy and our economic independence will not be diverted as it has in the past by political ideologies. Dr. Holness was speaking Tuesday evening at the Jamaica Stock Exchange's 21st Regional Investments and Capital Market Conference. Norgay Banton reports.
When the United States attacked Venezuela on January 3 and seized its president Nicolas Maduro, CARICOM issued a statement saying it was firmly committed to the fundamental principles of international law and multilateralism enshrined in the UN Charter. This including sovereignty and territorial integrity of states and respect for human dignity. The region also reiterated its call for peaceful dialogue through diplomatic channels to ensure Venezuela's stability, good governance, democracy, and prosperity for the people of Venezuela. On January 8, when Prime Minister Holness first spoke on the matter publicly, he said he would keep Jamaica safe. Dr. Holness said his government had a solid track record of managing multiple geopolitical shocks and that his administration would continue on that path, navigating issues carefully and skillfully using diplomatic channels. Tuesday evening, while speaking at the JSE conference, he again addressed the matter of current geopolitical issues. Dr. Holness says his administration is navigating the new era of geopolitics in the pursuit of Jamaica's economic independence.
It's a new era of geopolitics. The old era, which some people are still stuck in, and how they see the world and how they expect the world to respond to them, could not survive in today's world. And we have to establish that clearly. I hear the commentators, many of them seem to be stuck in an era where they believe the world owes them something. You have to be able to find your way in the world. You have to be able to find the opportunities, mitigate the threats. There is a generation that still thinks about political independence. What I'm struggling for is Jamaica's economic independence. You can talk all you want about your political independence. At some point, you have to be able to back it up with your economic independence.
Prime Minister Holness says his administration will always pursue Jamaica's interest first.
Every country has to play for their interest. And sometimes we don't do a good job in explaining to our population what are the interests. But one thing you will be assured of is that this government is going to ensure that Jamaica's best interests are always forefront in our minds, and we're always advocating and pursuing it, which means that we must always have access and we must always be at the table.
According to Dr. Holness, Jamaica's economic independence has been diverted due to ideological fantasies. He had pledged that this will not happen again.
It's not always going to go our way, but we must always have access. We must always be able at some way, some level, to have the proper exercise of statecraft to exert influence through various forms of power. Even small countries have power. Some people just don't understand the new statecraft as to how you exert that and how you use that. For us and for this administration, pursuing economic independence ultimately will result in your political independence. For many years, Jamaica has been diverted into all kinds of ideological fantasies that resulted in us wandering in the wilderness of economic despair. We will not do that again.
Norgay Banton for Nationwide News.
Joining us now to react, immediate past president of the MSME Alliance, Donovan Wignall, trade unionist and political commentator Helene Davis White, and president of the Jamaica Employers Federation, Wayne Chen. Gentlemen, lady, good afternoon.
Yeah, good afternoon,
everyone.
Good afternoon, Sanjay.
Thank you so much.
Afternoon.
Thank you so much for joining us. Wayne Chen, let me start with you. The Prime Minister there seeming to lay out a world view, a doctrine, if you will, for how Jamaica will do foreign relations. How you react to it?
It is a very pragmatic worldview, and it's certainly one practiced by big powers for centuries. Many years ago, maybe back in the early 1980s, the late Prime Minister of Antigua and Barbuda, Vere Bird, founding father of that Caribbean nation, described us as mendicants with flags. And what he said, in effect, was that we may have political sovereignty in the legalistic way, but the fact is that because we were poor and dependent, we did not have true independence. And that lesson has never been lost on us. When Alexander Bustamante said in 1962, we are with the West, he was derided by intellectuals and the educated as being overly simplistic. But his maxim has proven true time and time again. The fact is that we have to pursue a pragmatic foreign policy as a vulnerable, small island state. Not a Singapore that, despite its small size, is militarily and economically powerful, but one that is economically and militarily weak.
And Donovan Wignall, the Prime Minister, says Jamaica will always pursue its national interest first. How reassuring is that message for businesses, workers and investors given today's uncertainty on the global environment?
Well, the Prime Minister said nothing wrong, Sanjay. The Prime Minister has a country to run, and certain utterances can bring certain consequences. The Prime Minister has to learn to swim with the sharks and not be eaten, and not poke the bear. At the end of the day, he goes out and says something that will, bring consequences. Then the consequence will be on his head. So I think at the end of the day, he has to, so to speak, walk between the raindrops, be careful what he says, and always look out for the best interest of the country. So if it means that, whatever happens in the region, Venezuela or Cuba, whatever the case may be, you can have his personal opinion. But certain utterances, definitely, I wouldn't expect him to make. In the case of Mr. Bruce Golding, he went out there and said what was on his mind, but he's not running the country. The Prime Minister is very right in how he posited his opinion at that event.
Helene Davis White, there are people though who say that, look, we can't seem to be sucking up, as it were, to the big powers, to the bullies on the international stage, and that when the Prime Minister speaks in this way, it suggests that we're sort of rolling over and just accepting whatever is going to be done to us. Do you see it that way?
It would appear that way, especially because Jamaica has a history of leading from the front in a lot of these international issues, going all the way back to South Africa and the position that we took on South Africa very early in the day, and in other geopolitical issues over time. So a lot of persons will see it that way, that we really just, sucking up and rolling over and dying. I agree to a certain extent that the government, the Prime Minister, has to develop a pragmatic policy.
Yes.
But I don't think pragmatism means that you subsume totally your own ideas and principles and values and what have you to another country, military might, if you may want to call it that.
Yes.
It just means that you have to develop a means by which you can practice international relations in such a way that, as I think Donovan says, you are able to walk between the raindrops. And there are countries of the world that have done that. I think most of the Nordic countries have observed that kind of policy. Although they may be leaning in one direction, they have not gone out and, been very strident and so on, but they have made it clear as to what it is
Helene? Oh, it seems we lost her. We're going to take a break and try to reconnect. And Wayne Chen, I want to hear you on that as to how small states like Jamaica can walk through the raindrops, because it's appearing to me that it's going to be increasingly difficult for us to do that. After the break.
Order Pizza Hut online at pizzahutjamaica.com or through WhatsApp at 876-837-4488. Pizza Hut, now that's delivery. The time by Pizza Hut is
5:48.
Need to make a change to your title or need a title? Geoland Title Limited is the place to be. They do lost title application, add and remove names from titles, wills, estates, first-time registration, land surveys included, affordable rates and flexible payment options, National Land Agency adjudication and land titling waivers available. They have 8 locations island-wide. Call 876-754-6436 or visit their website at geolandonline.com. Geoland Title Limited. Secure your land, secure your title.
We know the recovery after Hurricane Melissa hasn't been easy. That's why Flow is here to support our customers every step of the way. Flow has been issuing rebates to customers who experienced service disruptions as part of our commitment to doing right by you. Your bill is created automatically, so you may still receive one as usual. But if you're due a rebate, you'll see it clearly listed as an adjustment on that same bill. We encourage you to take a moment to review your statement to confirm the credited amount. And if your service is still offline because of Hurricane Melissa, rebates will continue until service is restored. Rebates are issued twice per month. If it's not reflected on your current bill, it should appear on the next bill. At Flow, our focus is on fairness, transparency, and making sure our customers feel supported. Thank you for your patience, your loyalty, and your understanding as we work to fully restore service across all affected communities.
Back with you on Nationwide at 5. The Prime Minister is telling us that Jamaica's economic independence will not be derailed by what he describes as fantasy ideologies. His comments come as there are calls for him to take a more strident stance on what we're seeing certainly in the Caribbean region and on the international stage. Reacting, we have Donovan Wignall, immediate past president of the MSME Alliance, Helene Davis-White, trade unionist and political commentator, and Wayne Chen is president of the Jamaica Employers Federation. We have Helene back with us. I'm going to allow her to finish the point and then come to you, Wayne. Helene?
Yes, I was saying that, while I accept that, the Prime Minister and the government has to be very pragmatic and to develop a pragmatic approach to the conduct of international relations. The truth is that I believe that they still have to be able to say clearly what exactly is the policy position that they are coming from, what ideology, so to speak, informs their various positions. Because at the end of the day, the way the world is structured, one of the things that influences geopolitics a lot, certainly in the 21st century and just before, is the whole issue of globalization. And if you're into a globalized world, you can't just on your own, believe that you can fight battles. So you have to be able to develop alliances and so on. And I think the government has to identify that. And certainly in respect to CARICOM and Latin America and wherever, we, I think, have to be able to come together to determine exactly what is in our best interest as a grouping, because as a small island developing state, if we stand on our own, I don't think we can survive much.
Yeah, and I heard the Prime Minister of Canada making that point. Yes, go ahead, Chandra.
No, just a follow-up to Helene, because do you see any tension then or contradiction between putting Jamaica's interests first and remaining aligned with CARICOM's collective positions?
I think there are times when there will be tension, whether Jamaica, Trinidad, Guyana, wherever, that there will be some tension at points in time, and it will become difficult to straddle positions where, one country's interests may not be exactly the same as another, but I think we have to try to come to a common position, because as I indicated, in my own view, the individual islands of the Caribbean cannot hope to have the kind of influence if each of us go it alone. Our influence has to come from us being able to develop common positions. It may mean that we don't agree on everything, but we have to identify those things that we can agree on and that we can go forward with to the rest of the world.
Yeah. Weighing this question of dancing through the raindrops, I'm starting to think that it's going to be increasingly difficult to be the leader of small states in this environment. How does a leader dance through the raindrops when you have such instability and turmoil all around?
Well, I think we have been doing a pretty good job in recent years in dancing between those raindrops. Mm-hmm. The fact of the matter is that Jamaica's position currently is fully aligned with the CARICOM position. So you can recall what the statement that CARICOM has issued on recent events. And we have to be realistic. The fact is that we have, whether publicly or quietly behind closed doors when the diplomats speak, we have to consider collateral banking relations, because Jamaica needs to be a part of that global banking system.
Yes.
That has been under threat in the past. We have to think about travel advisories, which make a difference between whether we have a tourism product to sell this year or not. Mm-hmm. We have to think about other bilateral arrangements. We have to think about the fact that remittances coming out of one country accounts for almost 15% of your GDP. So these are existentialist questions that leaders have to make, whatever their private thoughts may be. They have to make responsible decisions, because the consequences of making the wrong decision are catastrophic for vulnerable Jamaicans. Yeah. It's good for those of us who, have a meal and income and a warm place to sleep, that we can cushion ourselves from these things. Ironically, many of the people who are calling for stridency have passports for other countries or reside elsewhere. Some of the most strident, I find, are not tied to here. They might be tied sentimentally to here, but they are not tied economically to here. So I think we have been going through the raindrops, and I'm not thinking of this government only. Yes. I'm just thinking in recent years, when we moved away from the more strident ideological performances and came back to sober policy. Yeah. Because the reality is, we are not Singapore. We are not economically powerful. We are still dependent. Sadly, it gives me no pleasure to say it, but comes a time in life when we have to be realistic and realize where we really are.
Donovan, Wayne laid out some things that I would call the issues that would affect the average Jamaican. Tourism, the travel, what the travel ban would do, that kind of thing would start to have an effect on the average Jamaicans. And a lot of times we have these conversations, and it's, it can feel academic and up in the air. But do you get the sense that the average Jamaican now really cares about these things in the way that the media has elevated them?
I think they absolutely do. And if you ask the average Jamaican who is attending upon the U.S. Embassy to wear a shirt or T-shirt denouncing Trump, I don't think they'll have the cojones to do that. I think, as the Prime Minister rightly said, we have to be practical. We have to be real. These are different times that we're living in. Mm-hmm. There's the ideology of the past is of the past. As a matter of fact, there's no set ideology now. It just seems like, at the end of the day, the most powerful persons can do what they like. International law, as stated by CARICOM, that has been breached. Yes, but at the end of the day, there are no rules. So therefore, we as a country, and when I say we, including the Prime Minister and all who speak on behalf of the country publicly and internationally, have to be very mindful of the minefield that we are in as far as geopolitical issues are concerned. So we have to be responsible and practical in some of the pronouncements that we make, because these pronouncements will bring consequences to the country, a lot of which Wayne spoke about. There are several types of punishments that can be levied. Of course, the visa was one of them. Everybody said, yes, you know, Jamaicans, we can't get visa again, you know, that kind of thing. Remittances can be taxed. You know, trade barriers can be put up. A lot of things can happen. So at the end of the day, our economy is vulnerable. We're trying to build out of a situation of Category 5 catastrophic hurricane, and then a lot of things are happening. I don't think the country, the Prime Minister, should be preoccupying himself with those particular issues unless it comes directly to our doorsteps at this point. It's kind of hard for me to say that, but at the end of the day, Jamaica first. So we just have to make sure that we look after our interests first. CARICOM stated the position, and we're part of CARICOM. Leave it there.
Yeah. Helene, if Donovan is right about how the average Jamaican sees these things, doesn't that mean the Prime Minister is reading the political moment correctly?
I think to a certain extent he is, because particularly younger Jamaicans who would not have been around at the time when, you know, we were
the 70s, the 80s.
Yes, you know, the younger Jamaicans, their interests tend to be, I call it selfish. It's about me.
No, I think that's right. I think you're absolutely right, Helene.
And so because of that, this is what influences them.
Yes.
I tell you something, even from the point of view of the trade union movement and how we operate, a lot of things has changed just because of that. So there are a lot of persons who are saying that the unions are not doing what they should be doing or what we did in times past. But again, we had to sit down and look at the world in which we're living, the primacy of laborers against capital, etc., and we had to adapt. But adapting doesn't mean that you are giving up. And I think that is where I think it needs to be made clear that you can have an ideological position, but how you seek to achieve it may not be the way that you would have done in the past. Yeah. So it could be that in the past you would go out there and very stridently make all sorts of remarks. It could be now in this era, what you try to do is to build commonality of interest. So instead of one little nation saying X, you're talking about blocks now of countries. Yeah, and that is what has happened with the BRICS and so on, that they have come up and they have developed their own blocks. Can it be that we are able to, as small island developing states this side of the world, be able to develop that commonality of interest that will ensure that we have a greater voice, a greater influence? Because certainly I don't think Jamaica going it alone, I don't think we will have that kind of influence.
Yeah. We have to leave it there. Donovan Wignall, Helene Davis-White, Wayne Chen, thank you so much for your time. And just to tell the listeners, the Prime Minister of Canada, he addressed the World Economic Forum earlier today, and he gave a powerful speech calling for essentially what Helene there was saying, that smaller countries, weaker countries have to now band together to try to stand up to what he says has been a complete rupturing and ending of the world order as we know it. We're going to bring you that address at 7:30. It's worth listening to, because I think Prime Minister Carney has got it absolutely right in terms of what the world is facing. Yeah, that's the cover story. Time for headlines.
The time brought to you by Guardian Life. Live secure, live easy is
2 minutes after 6.
Nationwide headlines at 6.
Good evening with the headlines at 6. I'm Shalois Michael. Prime Minister Dr. Andrew Holness is urging well-thinking Jamaicans not to be swayed by what he says are false narratives describing gangs as simply groups of disenfranchised citizens. Instead, he says they represent a grave threat to the legitimacy of the Jamaican state.
If unchecked, they become a challenge to the state. That is what was happening in Jamaica. Whenever that happens, if it is not checked, the end result of it is Haiti. The narrative is very limited and does not acknowledge that we face that threat. But I am not fooled. Neither am I deterred by the shallow narratives that are in the public space about what we have to do to reduce this threat. We have reduced it, and we continue to erode it.
Dr. Holness says Jamaicans must choose to help build a society of peace.
There are not some disadvantaged youngsters who are on the fringe of the society. No. Not every youth in the ghetto takes up a gun and becomes a criminal. Until our society stands up in unison and say no more of this, until we get rid of this ambivalence in the society, we'll always be at risk. It is a cost to our country. Those people who do that must face consequences. Let this be the decade when Jamaica truly attains peace.
Prime Minister Dr. Andrew Holness. Police Commissioner Dr. Kevin Blake is again defending the JCF's record of body-worn cameras, rejecting claims the force has resisted the rollout of the devices. In the latest edition of the Force Orders, the Commissioner accused the critics of spreading what he called deliberate falsehoods about the initiative. He suggested that the persistence of the narrative is driven more by self-interest than genuine concern. Dr. Blake also challenged the claims that recent reductions in violent crime are linked to unlawful police conduct, insisting that the force's success is the result of effective and sensible strategies. Meanwhile, Prime Minister Dr. Andrew Holness says the government is ready to supply the police with the necessary technology it needs to fight crime in an effective and responsible manner.
The government will supply the necessary budget to ensure that all formations that require the use of body-worn cameras are so equipped. It is the intention of the government to provide the security forces with all the equipment that they need to ensure that their policing is transparent and that there is a process of capturing data, their interaction, to make it evidentiary and to make it prosecutable so that we can ensure that there is confidence and trust in the actions of the police.
Prime Minister Dr. Andrew Holness. Works Minister Robert Morgan has admitted that recent road patching efforts in some areas have proven not to be durable.
It is very easy to say the patching has not held up. Of course, there are areas where it hasn't held up because those areas, patching would not hold up in those areas. And I can give you an example, Long Hill, that section near the Guanguchi and Long Hill, is not going to hold up because there are other issues associated with the road that needs a more permanent fix. And you can look at Washington Boulevard. There's an NWC pipe under the road that needs to be replaced, but it's going to take a significant amount of money to replace it. I have the memory of where we were a year ago, as I have the chronicles of where we patched and what has held up and what has not held up. 100% of it has not held up because it couldn't possibly have held up where you have significant amount of water running on the road that requires a significant engineering.
The minister was responding to criticisms of the poor state of the roads in several areas. This is despite recent road patching efforts. The government launched at least 2 multi-million-dollar road repair programs last year. Minister Morgan stressed that there is a lack of accountability from other stakeholders in charge of road maintenance.
Not all roads in Jamaica belong to the NWA. I'm a very visible minister. I try to be as responsive as possible. But a large percentage of the roads that we repair are not us. And people say, well, the NWA, because the NWA is visible, or the Minister of Works is visible. Yeah, hold me accountable as the Minister of Works, but hold the other people who are responsible for works as well. And that's why we're saying, let us try to have a one road authority.
Yes, and I wish we can get closer to that quickly.
The NWA, we can hold the parish council, we can hold the RADA, we can hold the private developers accountable.
Robert Morgan, a minister with responsibility for works. Founder of 18 Degrees North, Zara Burton, is calling for the government to be sued over what she says is its failure to update the Access to Information Act in a timely manner. The senior journalist was speaking at a public forum put on by Jamaicans for Justice in St. Andrew on Wednesday.
I think, not in a hostile way, that we need to sue the government, meaning that we have been hearing these very hopeful, these promissory notes. I still don't understand why the 2011 different recommendations never got to the point of getting to a bill to be implemented. I don't get that part. Maybe some explanation could be there. But regardless, we need to have specific timelines in law for these amendments to occur so that they can be implemented.
The Access to Information Act allows citizens to obtain information about the conduct of government business from ministries, departments, and agencies. But Ms. Burton says the government has failed to treat the law with the urgency it deserves.
When it comes to the emergent way in which the Access to Information Act needs to be revamped, I would give our government an F. There has to be more emergency put on this. Post-cabinet press briefings after Hurricane Melissa, and of course we're in emergency times, I had specifically asked for the Access to Information Act to be revamped under emergency legislation so that some of these exemptions that have typically applied could be relaxed and we should be able to get information. And I was told by the Information Minister, Dana Morris-Dixon, that that's just not a priority of the government right now.
Zara Burton, founder of 18 Degrees North. Those were the headlines at 6. I'm Shalois Michael. Sports is next.
Need to make a change to your title or need a title? GeoLand Title Limited is the place to be. They do lost title application, add and remove names from titles, wills, estates, first-time registration, land surveys included, affordable rates and flexible payment options, National Land Agency adjudication and land titling waivers available. They have 8 locations island-wide. Call 876-754-6436 or visit their website at geolandonline.com. GeoLand Title Limited. Secure your land, secure your title.
If you have received a notification that your cargo is ready for pickup at Kingston Wharves Limited KWL, please do so immediately. Hurricane Relief Cargo has added to the regular seasonal shipments, impacting volume and capacity. We are open weekdays and every Saturday, 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. Timely cargo collection by customers is essential. Contact us at 876-618-1068 for more information.
In times of loss, sharing information matters. Nationwide 90 FM offers professional obituary announcements, ensuring family, friends, and communities are informed with care and dignity.
It's been a long day.
Obituaries are aired weekdays at 8:30 a.m., 12:30 p.m., and 7:30 p.m. When it's important to reach people, let us help you do so respectfully. Contact our sales team today, 876-630-1210 or sales@nationwidenewsnetwork.com for more information. Nationwide 90 FM, informing Jamaica with care.
Good evening, which is Sports Report. I am Alric Swiby. We bowl things off with some cricket as West Indies lost the second T20 International against Afghanistan by 39 runs at the Dubai International Stadium on Wednesday and now trail 2-0 in the three-match series. The Afghans made their highest T20 score against the West Indies when they posted 189 for 4, surpassing the 181 they made in Game 1 on Monday. Darius was sly, cracked a top score of 68 and shared in a third wicket stand of 115 with Sadiquala Atal, who weighed in with 53. Matthew Ford claimed 2 for 25, while there was a wicket apiece for Roman Simmons and Shamars Joseph. West Indies then failed in their bid to level the series after crashing to 151 all out in 18.5 overs. Only captain Brandon King with an even 50 and Shimron Hetmyer 46 from 17 balls got any scores of worth as Mujib Ur-Rahman bagged 4 for 21. King says despite the losses, they are positive to take away.
I feel the bowlers have done well. Monty in the first game obviously bowled a really good spell, Jaden as well in the first game. I think Matty came back well in this game, bowled some good spells, and obviously Hetty played and Samson played some good innings in these few games. So there's some positives to look at.
The Caribbean team will look to avoid the sweep in the third and final game on Thursday morning, Jamaica time, starting at 9:30.
Just looking for improvement in all three departments of the game. Obviously, fielding for sure, we dropped a few catches again this game, and that will help us to restrict them to a lower total. Obviously, we want some better starts with the back to set up the foundation for the back end, the hitters to finish the game. So improvement all around, and hopefully we'll just get better with each game.
Brandon King. Now, Jamaica ended its campaign in the regional T20 Blaze on Wednesday in St. Vincent, beating Trinidad and Tobago by 3 wickets under the Duckworth-Lewis method at Arnessville. The Jamaicans raced to 79 for 7 in 15.2 overs after restricting the Trinis to 76 for 8 in 17 overs after rain interrupted play. Shadi Nation led the way with 24 and former captain Stefani Taylor 21. Brianna Achucharan bagged 3 for 14. Jamaica ended the tournament with 2 wins and 3 defeats and will now turn their attention to the 50 over tournament starting next week. Meanwhile, Barbados booked a place in Friday's final against the Leeward Islands following their 22-run win over dethroned champions Guyana. Barbados made 92 for 8 in their 20 overs, then dismissed Guyana for 70. Now, West Indies are back in action at the ICC Under-19 Cricket World Cup on Thursday when they face South Africa in the final Group D encounter starting at 2:30 in the morning Jamaica time. The young West Indians are third in the group behind leaders Afghanistan, who are perfect after 3 games, and South Africa, who like West Indies are also on 2 points. It's a virtual must-win game for West Indies if they are to make it into the quarterfinals, as they are behind South Africa on net run rate. The West Indies opened the tournament with victory over Tanzania, but lost big against Afghanistan in their second game. Now to football, as Montego Bay United are now 6 points clear atop the Ray and Neville Jamaica Premier League standings after an impressive 5-0 win over Spanish Town Police at Royal Lakes on Wednesday. There were 5 different scores for the former champions, with Deviroy Mackenzie setting them on the way in the 20th minute. Okimo Jones doubled the score 2 minutes later. It was 3-0 on the hour mark thanks to Jamari Clark. Dwight Merrick made it 4-0 in the 64th minute before Joreen Fletcher applied the gloss in the 72nd minute. Mumbai United are now on 39 points, while clear of second place Racing United on 33 points. Meanwhile, champions Cavalier beat Dunby Holding 5-0 at Stadium East. And Liverpool moved a step closer to securing a place in the round of 16 in the European Champions League after thrashing Olympique Marseille 3-0 in France on Wednesday. Dominic Szoboszlai, Cody Gakpo and an own goal did it for the Reds as they move up to 4th in the standings.
Szoboszlai hits it, scores! Well, it's another one from outside the box for Dominic Szoboszlai. But instead of sticking it into the top corner, he aimed for the bottom corner. Cheeky free kick, perfectly executed, and Liverpool with their fans celebrating. 4 in the box for Frimpong now as he bursts towards the dead ball line, and he plays it through, it takes a deflection, it's gone in. On the move here again, Liverpool. It's Cody Gakpo, 4-3, and he gets it. Well, that's a fantastic way to finish an excellent night in the Champions League for Liverpool.
In other games, Bayern Munich remained second after winning 2-0. FC Barcelona outscored Slavia Prague 4-2, and the Newcastle United tagged PSV Eindhoven 3-0. Now to swimming, as 2 young swimmers from the host team, Y Speedos, will be among those to watch when the 3-day Caldwell House Memorial Invitational Swim Meet gets underway on January 30 at the stadium pool. Liam Williams and Dominic Whitelock will compete in the boys 9 to 10 age group, facing swimmers from several visiting teams in one of the season's highly anticipated meets. Williams entered the invitational with clear goals in mind. He is aiming to medal in multiple events while also focusing on dropping his times, a key benchmark for young swimmers looking to build momentum as the season progresses.
I'll be competing 200 fly, 100 fly, 50 fly, 50 fly, 100 fly, and the 100 meter. I want to drop sometime with 200 fly, also win the medal, the gold medal in that event, and drop time on it, also in the 100 for the same.
Meanwhile, Whitelock is confident heading into the competition, particularly in the 50 meters butterfly, which he considered his strongest event.
I'll be competing in a lot of events, The ones I'm really looking forward to are the short distance at the 50 fly, 50 free. And I'm also looking forward to the 100 free and 200 back. My best event, I personally think it's the 50 meter fly. I think I'm going to medal in the 50 meter freestyle, backstroke and butterfly. And my worst event, is my 50 meter breaststroke.
And finally, in weightlifting, President of the Jamaica Weightlifting Association, Dr. Mark Broomfield, believes Olympian Chaddy Wright has all the tools necessary to be successful in the sport due to his solid discus throwing background. Wright in 2021 became the first Jamaican thrower to reach an Olympic final and has set his sights on not only making the 2026 Commonwealth Games but also securing a medal. According to Broomfield, Wright's preparation is well underway.
Chad is determined. Let me put it that way. He's very determined and dedicated to weightlifting and to sport in general. And, what he has shown is his willingness to push. I remember when we were in the tournament in there the other day and he missed a lift. He said, listen, before we lift, he said, if I missed a lift, increase the weight still. So if we have planned that we're going to do 150, 155, we're going to go for 60, 160 kg to finish. He's saying if I miss any of the lift, usually when an athlete missed a lift, you go back and redo the lift that he missed because you don't want to not have a total. And he said, listen, even if I miss the lift, increase the weight.
The 2026 Commonwealth Games is set to be hosted in Glasgow, Scotland from July 23 to August 2. According to Dr. Broomfield, Wright is one step away from securing qualification to the Games.
Well, the Commonwealth Games, we have 2 competitions. He did one already, and the second one was supposed to be in Venezuela, but you see what is happening. So, we are waiting on the IWF to say where they're going to have it. We prefer when they are close enough because they're less expensive when they are closer. When they are far, like India, so it's tough. He has gone to one. He's ranked 8, which means he's there to qualify. He just needs to attend the next qualifier. And once he goes and he performs well enough, he should qualify for the Commonwealth Games.
Dr. Mark Broomfield, I'm Alric Swaby, and that's your sports.
Following the passage of Hurricane Melissa, Jamaicans are urged to take precautions to prevent leptospirosis, a disease spread through contact with water, soil, or food contaminated by the urine of infected animals. Remember, avoid swimming, wading, or playing in floodwaters or any water that may have resulted from flooding. Avoid consuming food that may have been contaminated with floodwater or animal urine. Wear protective clothing and footwear when working or walking in areas that may be contaminated. And visit the nearest health center immediately if you experience fever, chills, muscle pain, or other flu-like symptoms. A message from the Ministry of Health and Wellness.
Managing your investments with Sagicor is now easy as ever. You can fund stocks, repos, and do more seamlessly. Even get a clear overview of your portfolio performance on the enhanced Sagicor eBank platform. Want to experience effortless investment banking on Sagicor eBank? It's as easy as ever. Contact your Sagicor Investment Wealth Advisor today and update your personal information for access. Call 888-SAGICOR or visit sagicor.com for more information.
For all your electrical needs, visit ABC Electrical Sales. They stock a wide variety of electrical supplies including plugs, switches, panel boards and conduits, plus energy-saving fixtures. ABC Electrical Sales stocks brands like GE, Siemens, Philips, Cutler Hammer and Allen Bradley. They also offer free island-wide delivery just to suit your needs. Visit them at Shop 8, Hagley Park Plaza, Kingston 10, or call 876-754-3714-5 or 876-754-3825-8. ABC Electrical Sales, for a better choice in the electrical business.
In times of loss, sharing information matters. Nationwide 90 FM offers professional obituary announcements, ensuring family, friends, and communities are informed with care and dignity.
It's been a long day.
Obituaries are aired weekdays at 8:30 a.m., 12:30 p.m., and 7:30 p.m. When it's important to reach people, let us help you do so respectfully. Contact our sales team today, 876-630-1210 or sales@nationwidenewsnetwork.com for more information. Nationwide 90 FM, informing Jamaica with care.
Everything loud and wicked every Saturday 3 to 5 p.m. with Outside with Pepita. Loan vibes, loan laughs, and loan entertainment. Come on the road with we. Because when we say Outside with Pepita, we're there all over Jamaica. Anyway, check them out. We're there. We're in on the business. Stay tuned in for prizes, surprises, giveaways, guest artists, and enough more. But hold on there. We forget to big up my DJ. DJ Jerome the Shell Boss, I'm gonna make it bust to pew pew with the maddest, baddest, and latest tunes. So look out for Outside with Pepita. We might be coming to a town near you. You heard it here first. Outside with Pepita, Saturdays 3 to 5 p.m. on Nationwide 90 FM. The new revolution in media. Jamaica, lock it in and don't miss a thing.
Public Opinion is brought to you by Cleasing Industrial Supplies Limited, Industrial Automation and Control Solutions.
Good evening, and welcome to Public Opinion. I'm Robeanne Williams. A special good evening to our friends on our YouTube platform. Thank you so much for tuning in. We want to hear from you, so we ask you to weigh in live in the comment section on our YouTube platform. And I guess this one affects motorists, affects pedestrian. It affects everybody. Yeah, we're talking about the roads, the state of the nation's roads at this stage. And Works Minister Robert Morgan has admitted that recent road patching efforts in some areas have proven not to be durable.
It is very easy to say the patching has not held up. Of course, there are areas where it hasn't held up because those areas, patching would not hold up in those areas. And I can give you an example, Long Hill. That section near the Guangu Tree and Long Hill is not going to hold up because there are other issues associated with the road that needs a more permanent fix. And you can look at Washington Boulevard. There's an NWC pipe under the road that needs to be replaced, but it's going to take a significant amount of money to replace it. I have the memory of where we were a year ago, as I have the chronicles of where we patched and what has held up and what has not held up. 100% of it has not held up because it couldn't possibly have held up where you have significant amount of water running on the road that requires a significant engineering.
Significant engineering indeed. That's Robert Morgan. He is a minister with responsibility for works. The minister was responding to criticisms of the poor state of the roads in several areas. This despite recent road patching efforts. So in Public Opinion this evening, we're putting the question to you. Are you satisfied with the state of the roads across the country? I'll turn to our Facebook platform where Dewey is saying this question it must elicit laughter. I damaged 2 tires in 1 month last November at 2 separate locations, weeks apart with 0 avenues for recourse or compensation. We just have to absorb the costs Nobody is satisfied with the state of our roads, not even those who sell tires and front end parts, because they too have to use the roads. Philip Jackson says, roads are never ending. Fixing or repair, they are temporary based on their nature, especially in water area and soil type. Diane is saying, if you ask the blind the question, him can answer. Yeah. You check and see how many people driving. That mean they buy gas and gas tax. So the question is asked, is where those tax money going? Okay. Sophia Smith says, no, they are ditches, craters, and precipice combined. As you skip from one, you end up into another. And I'm not sure if you're going to go down. Wow. If you're traveling the country road. Bruce Sweeney is saying the same area they patched in Linstead St. Catherine is the same areas they are digging up to repatch. The Loidas Vale Main Road leading to Kellits haven't been patched in many years, especially Top Hill. George Elliott says they are not in the best condition, primarily because of the hurricanes and the persistent rainfall, but plans are in place to take care of them in a timely and convenient manner. I don't know, George Elliott, if people would agree with you about the timely and convenient manner, because, you know, the man just let him lose tire in 2 tires in less than 1 month. Robert Ranger is saying the roads were unkept for decades, plus we had 2 major hurricanes in the last 2 years. Not even PNP 18 plus years could have maintained them. Barry Black's Jamaica roads are in the worst condition under prosperity. Can someone tell me one road except the toll roads that are not riddled with potholes? And he says, shame on this JLP government. Audley Nain is saying he's totally so dissatisfied with all the roads in Spanish Town. All roads in the capital of Spanish Town are so very bad. One wonders if Spanish Town is a part of Jamaica. Yeah? Philip Harrison says, worst roads in the world. That fuel tax is not being spent on our roads. Anthony Shakes saying he's dissatisfied, but it is the NWA that is responsible for all the bad roads. That's a question he's asking. What about the municipalities? They too must fix the roads they're responsible for. Best and believe this is now what the Single Road Authority is trying to, fix. Yeah? It's an attempt to fix who responsible for this road and that road and all kind of Arsted Crowfoot. Michael Henry saying the roads are a national disgrace. Yeah. Billions of dollars. This is coming from Christopher Isaacs. Billions of dollars are washed away yearly simply because of the continued use of unprocessed marl. Yeah. They now use good material. That's what you're saying, Christopher Isaacs. Nicola says, satisfied, yes. But please add this before the satisfied, saying that she's dissatisfied. Wow. On our Instagram platform, are you satisfied with the state of the roads across the country? Hey, it's Lady Cutchinson says no with a bag of exclamation mark. Right now, my car a scream here in St. Mary. That's coming from J-Lo. And Jordan Crosskill. Jordan Crosskill says not satisfied with the lack of resignations from our government either. Okay. All right. In that regard, let me go on over to X. Robert K. Phillips. He took 2 pictures of 2 ditches. Yeah. Two potholes. When I doubt you can call it pothole, but you have some in a Portmore. For those of you who live in Portmore, some potholes they over there, so. And some they will tell you that, oh, it's not our responsibility, and oh, this road belongs to this person and this road belongs to that person. That's the excuse. Well, I wouldn't call it an excuse because it is fact. It is factual. However, we the people, we frankly don't care. We just want the road fixed. And I'm speaking as, of course, a citizen and not as, the journalist that I am. But yeah, the roads them want fix. It's terrible. Bag of excuses, says Justin Brown, turning our attention to our YouTube platform. Stop patching the road It's not working. That's coming from Justin Brown. Not happy at all. My car no stop mash up. Pantova Hamilton Bad Road. Okay. No roads really not standing out at all. Annalise says no, hell no. The roads are in a terrible state. Deplorable is an understatement. The Spark program is a sham. That's according to Kurt Wall. Let me see if I can get in a few more. PM Andrew increased taxes where it can make the roads flawless and our hospitals lacking of anything. Valentina, that's coming from Valentina. Anthony is saying get the money from the IMF and fix up the road them. Okay. Wow. Better road sense, says Reggae-matic. I was in Jamaica last year. They have a hillside Mayday. Go back to Newport to water. It bad. It cost me $7,000 to chop a tire and it fix. And get it fixed. Okay. Sonia Wright is saying no, we're not satisfied, but rainfall in Rome never built in one day. Yeah. And Tailoring is questioning what this government is doing to the Jamaican people is sinful. Every day is excuses. Even the so-called paved roads are bumpy. Hello, you see when the road them claims that they fix, and you drive over, you part them we fix, you just go so it's like you're up on a sea. I don't know, man. Something has got to give, and I get it. Rome wasn't built in one day. Novelet says the contractors are some of the problems. They don't fix it properly, and as rainfall, it gone back to the river. Defund those contractors. That's according to Novelet. Wilbert says, what do we want? Wait for a comprehensive road rebuilding or temporary patching until the rail repairs get done. Roads bad. That's coming from CJ. Yeah. Let me see if I can get in a few more. The MP need to give his wife the job and move all responsibility from local government and make the one road authority so that you can have a minister just for road building and patching. That's coming from Alex Smith. Leroy says, boy, anytime the authorities fix potholes at the intersection of Eastwood Park and Red Hills Road, I'll be okay for now. Not telling lie, over Portmore you have some ditch, man. You have some ditching at the road where me no know. I don't know. Even when they patch those, after a while you just see it gone back to square one. And it is okay. Somebody in my ear said we don't have road over Portmore, full stop. Yeah, we don't got road over Portmore. I don't know what's happening over there. Even on the road where you would think that people know the 20 route. And you know which building is on the 20 route. I don't know, man. More asphaltic overlay rather than patching. Not satisfied. Can 2 inches of tar? Okay. Can 2 inches of tar fix anything? Beg Andrew some money and fix it. Valentina is saying Spark isn't for main road. Yeah. Mr. Morgan needs to stop public relations and fix the roads. That's coming from Claude West. Our local contractors are all tricksters. That's according to Donovan Phillips. When it comes to fixing roads, they master the craft of poor work done because one rainfall and it's another $300 million contract again. I'm of the view that the road them now fix good. I don't know. I'm just saying. I didn't go to roadology school. I never go to road school. So I don't know how the road them fix. But something has got to give. We the motorists, we the people on the road, we feel it. And I know that you travel the roads that we travel as well. And sometimes I wonder if you don't see and if you don't feel the vehicle swerve left, right, if you come out a patrol. But to each his own, and let us wait and see what will happen. Thank you guys so much for participating in Public Opinion. The Business Report is up next.
Public Opinion was brought to you by Cleasing Industrial Supplies Limited, industrial automation and control solutions.
Drive the most exciting new vehicles in Jamaica. Schedule your 2024 Ford Ranger pickup or Ford Everest 7-seater SUV test drive now. Call or visit KIG today.
The time by KIG is
6:37. Hello, good evening, and welcome to Nationwide's Business Report. I'm Robeanne Williams. The European Parliament has suspended the approval of a key U.S. trade deal agreed in July in protest against Donald Trump's demand to take over Greenland. The suspension was announced in France today as the U.S. president addressed the World Economic Forum. The move followed renewed trade tensions between the U.S. and Europe, sparked by Trump's bid to acquire Greenland, which had rattled financial markets, reviving talk of a trade war and the possibility of retaliation against the U.S. Hours later, Trump said on social media he had reached a framework deal on Greenland's future and would not carry out threats to put new tariffs on 8 NATO members. In the currency markets at the close of trading today, it cost 158 Jamaican dollars and 26 cents to buy $1, 212 Jamaican dollars and 43 cents to buy £1 British pound, and 115 Jamaican dollars and 14 cents to buy the Canadian dollar. That's the Business Report. I'm Robeanne Williams. Good evening.
Charles O'Connor Consulting Network, COCN, is a financial reporting firm that delivers accounting and compliance services on time. Call us today at 876-908-0486-7. Email us at clientservices@cocnjamaica.com or visit our website at www.cocnjamaica.com. COCN, driven by international accounting standards, modern technology, and integrity.
Stepping confidently into a new year starts with one simple, powerful word. Yes! Say yes to new beginnings. Say yes to a secure future. Say yes to living the life you love with your family. With health and life insurance from Sagicor Life. We're here to give you the protection and peace of mind you deserve in 2026. All you have to do is say yes to what matters most. Call 888-SAGICOR to speak with an advisor today.
If you have received a notification that your cargo is ready for pickup at Kingston Wharves Limited KWL, please do so immediately. Hurricane Relief Cargo has added to the regular seasonal shipments, impacting volume and capacity. We are open weekdays and every Saturday, 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. Timely cargo collection by customers is essential. Contact us at 876-618-1068 for more information.
We know the recovery after Hurricane Melissa hasn't been easy. That's why Flow is here to support our customers every step of the way. Flow has been issuing rebates to customers who experienced service disruptions as part of our commitment to doing right by you. Your bill is created automatically, so you may still receive one as usual. But if you're due a rebate, you'll see it clearly listed as an adjustment on that same bill. We encourage you to take a moment to review your statement to confirm the credited amount. And if your service is still offline because of Hurricane Melissa, rebates will continue until service is restored. Rebates are issued twice per month. If it's not reflected on your current bill, it should appear on the next bill. At Flow, our focus is on fairness, transparency, and making sure our customers feel supported. Thank you for your patience, your loyalty, and your understanding as we work to fully restore service across all affected communities.
In times of loss, sharing information matters. Nationwide 90 FM offers professional obituary announcements, ensuring family, friends, and communities are informed with care and dignity.
It's been a long day.
Obituaries are aired weekdays at 8:30 a.m., 12:30 p.m., and 7:30 p.m. When it's important to reach people, let us help you do so respectfully. Contact our sales team today, 876-630-1210, or sales@nationwidenewsnetwork.com for more information. Nationwide 90 FM, informing Jamaica with care.
We need a bigger office where we can see more clients. Sounds like ambition is calling and Access Financial Services is answering. The funds are waiting.
Boss, this can't hold on one truck, you know.
I know. We need another truck. Sounds like you have a plan and Access Financial Services can help. Horizon, a new loan product from Access Financial Services designed for women entrepreneurs to unlock the capital you need to grow and take your business beyond limits. With quick approval, flexible repayment, and low interest rates, your success is on the horizon.
We can light up your world with the rays of the sun. your energy in the palm of your hand.
For over 20 years, Fosrich has been putting a world of energy in your hands. Now we bring you big savings with our line of solar energy products and LED lighting. Financing now available for all your home and commercial retrofit projects. Consult with our in-house staff or certified professional engineers for all your electrical needs. Fosrich Lifestyle. It's electric. Fosrich, your energy world.
If you have received a notification that your cargo is ready for pickup at Kingston Wharves Limited KWL, please do so immediately. Hurricane relief cargo has added to the regular seasonal shipments, impacting volume and capacity. We are open weekdays and every Saturday, 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. Timely cargo collection by customers is essential. Contact us at 876-618-1068 for more information.
Good evening. Thank you so much for staying with us. And if you're just joining us, hello. This is Nationwide at 5. It's time for the nation's business. I'm Ricardo Brooks.
And my name is Sanjay Lewis. Founder of 18 Degrees North, Zara Burton, is calling for the government to be sued over what she says is its failure to update the Access to Information Act in a timely manner. The senior journalist Burton was speaking at a public forum put on by Jamaicans for Justice in St. Andrew on Wednesday. She believes the government should be required by legislation to implement recommendations to the Act.
In a hostile way that we need to sue the government, meaning that we have been hearing these very hopeful, these promissory notes. I still don't understand why the 2011 different recommendations never got to the point of getting to a bill to be implemented. I don't get that part. Maybe some explanation could be there. But regardless, we need to have specific timelines in law for these amendments to occur so that they can be implemented.
That's Zara Burton, founder of 18 Degrees North. In the meantime, founding director of the National Integrity Action, NIA, Professor Trevor Monroe, believes that civil society and media groups can pressure the government into action by signing a petition.
Perhaps the PAJ ought to consider asking all journalists, not just the executive, to sign a petition, give it to our good minister, as well as other civil society bodies, and say, we are proposing what was agreed in 14 years ago, 2011, and its reform in terms of the current review that is being proposed to see to what extent those recommendations need to be updated. This be done in accordance with the Constitution of Jamaica.
That's Professor Trevor Monroe. Joining us now, founder of 18 Degrees North, Zara Burton, and policy research and advocacy specialist at Jamaicans for Justice, Jade Williams. Ladies, good evening.
Good evening. Good evening. Thank you for having me.
All right. Jade, let me start with you. Thank you for being with us. Let me start with you. Just give our listeners a sense of, before I get to Zara's complaints, what exactly did JFJ find in terms of the Access to Information Act?
Okay, thanks for that, Ricardo. So, yes, today we launched our comprehensive review of Jamaica's Access to Information Act, and we looked at the compliance with the legislative provisions over a period of February to November 2025. And we looked at several things. We looked at compliance with the statutory timelines that are within the legislation, how responses were received, as well as how they were acknowledged. But as we look at responses fulfillment, we saw where 30.6% of the requests made, which we made 111 requests to 101 unique agencies and ministries. 30.6 of those requests were fulfilled within the 30-day statutory timeline, whereas 31.5 were fulfilled after that 30 days, and 37.8 were not fulfilled at all. And in the 69 requests that would have been fulfilled, we saw where 63.8 resulted in full disclosure and 23.2 resulted in partial disclosure, with 13% in denial. We did see some good things as well. We did see several agencies that were compliant within that 30-day statutory period, as well as providing fulsome responses to the requests that were made. But, what the review mostly found is that there is still a need for us to review our access to information legislation in a new sense, again.
Yeah. And Zara, you say we should perhaps now consider suing the government. I know my listeners are thinking, but that sounds like an extreme step. Why would you propose that?
Okay, so let's go back to the Access to Information law itself, 2002, that same law. It passed already.
Yeah.
And we've been using it, and we've been happy to use it. We've been getting good results by being able to hold government to account by getting information from the government. And I want to point out that a lot of agencies now respond or acknowledge ATI requests. Some of them may not give you all the information. They may say some of it is exempt. In fact, a lot of cases are exempt information based on commercial interest, based on national security interest, based on foreign relations of the country not being compromised if the information comes out. So there's a slew of exemptions under this act that stymie the information flow in the public interest. And that is at the crux of why I'm calling for the government to be sued. Why? The legislation says that the government is supposed to, with a parliamentary committee, from time to time, revisit the ATI Act. No, from time to time cannot be 2011 and on pause since then. 2011, we had a joint select committee prepare a report. We had a full-on set of recommendations. I've read the report. At least I hope it's the right one I've read. And we've seen where these implementations never occurred despite going through that whole process. So now there is talk today from Senator Marlon Morgan, saying that we are going to get to that point again where we go back through a process, especially now that the Data Protection Act has passed, and we're seeing where some of these ATI officers are now saying you can't get the information because the Data Protection Act doesn't allow for it. So there needs to be a whole, if you will, reassessment of how the two acts intersect. I get that. But in terms of timelines, everything Mr. Morgan said today, it sounds wonderful. But what are the timelines? We had a review in 11. No law change occurred, even though we're supposed to have the parliamentary committee in law review this from time to time. Now we're hearing it will be considered at cabinet level to see how they will go about revamping the act. But in terms of timeline for it to go to the Joint Select Committee to get it sorted, that's still up in the air. Marlon Morgan sounded very committed to doing what was right. And it's not that I don't disbelieve him. However, there's something about us as a Jamaican society when it comes to activating via firm deadlines. We just can't seem to get it together unless it's an international outlet telling us that if we don't pass this law by a certain amount of time, then we're going to be either grey listed or we're going to have to stick on the grey list for another 5 years or whatever they may have mentioned. But the point is we get into real gear when it comes to timelines from international outlets, but when it comes to big timelines from us as locals, we drag our feet. And it's not acceptable to me
but some
anymore.
critics argue that litigation can be lengthy and it can be costly. Why do you believe legal action is still warranted? Wouldn't it be better to try and have greater dialogue with the government to have these changes enacted?
Listen, I've learned in life, dialogue with government goes like this. Would you please update the act? Noted. 2 years later. Could you please update the act? Noted. 2 years later. Could you please update the act? Noted. Look, we've heard you. Noted. We are now saying, all right, you've done what you want to do, which is to drag your feet. Now we need to take it to a step, next step, to say, let's go to court. Let us get firm timelines on when this thing can be implemented because you have failed to act as the act seems to have indicated you should have acted.
And so just so I'm clear, Zara, your contention would be then that from time to time could not reasonably mean 16 years?
Could not.
Okay.
No way.
All right. If I could just go back to Jade, the matter of the ministries, departments, and agencies, Jade, that have been most responsive or least responsive, can you identify them?
Well, what we can certainly do is highlight a few of those that were most responsive. So, for example, the Ministry of Local Government and Community Development, the Office of the Prime Minister, the Jamaica Deposit Insurance Corporation, the Tourism Product Development Company, the National Health Fund. So a lot of those would have been highlighted in our report as agencies that would have fulfilled their statutory obligations, both within the timelines and within the parameters of the request that was made. In terms of the agencies that were less responsive, there are some case studies that are highlighted in the report, and I would encourage persons to go to our social media pages. It is linked in our Linktree, on our Twitter page, and on our Instagram pages. And of course, if you can't find it there,
we lost Jade?
Jade?
Oh, we lost her. I did a cursory glance at the report. I haven't read it in full, but I wanted Jade was seemingly avoiding to say which ministries, departments, and agencies were least responsive, but based on my cursory reading, the Ministry of Finance seems to be highlighted as being least responsive. I thought I saw a section of it indicating that in one instance, at least one instance, it may have taken the ministry up to 100 plus days. We have Zara back with us, trying to reconnect with Jade. But Zara, while we wait on Jade, let me ask you, because maybe a lot of Jamaicans haven't heard of this act, and they may wonder, why is it relevant to my life, such that the government needs to prioritize it? How would you respond to that question?
Oh boy. If you haven't heard of this act, it's the Access to Information Act, and it's God's gift to us as citizens of this country, right? And not just God's gift, but the Parliament's gift to us. When it passed in 2002, it is something that allows people who are not just journalists, not just people from civil society like a JFJ or NIA, every one of us, if you can't read and write, you can call the government agency and say, I would like such information, and they're supposed to send you on over to the ATI officer, and the person can take the request and actually get back to you with information once you give them where the information is supposed to go to. It's supposed to take 30 days for the government to actually return the information to you, and it's not supposed to cost you anything except for, let us say, the reproduction of the information. Now, I'll tell you that there's a problem with some of these agencies. One of them recently told me that I need to pay in order to get 4.5 years of minutes redacted from the government organization of the board meetings that they have. They want to charge me $250,000 in excess of that, and they're asking if I'm challenged to pay it. Then what they will do is they will ask me to scissor out the section that I want, what is of interest, and then they will return it to me for less cost. Now, in that vein, what they're trying to do, in my view, not their view, in my view, what they're trying to do is to figure out what it is I want to find out. Now, I'm not interested in telling them what I want to find out. And for the public that don't know, you don't have to give a reason why you need the information. You can merely request it. And I think that's the value of it. Once you have the information, you can do whatever it is you want to do with the information. If you want to pick it based on the information, you can do so. If you want to make an investment decision, you can do so and try to make some money. So this is a very important piece of legislation. If you want to hold politicians to account like we journalists do, that's also something that we do regularly. So it's a vital piece of information.
And if the government were to act now, Zara, what would meaningful reform of the Access to Information Act look like in practical terms?
Okay.
Okay, wonderful question. Right now, we are seeing where Hurricane Melissa has ravaged Jamaica, especially the western side, and we are getting decisions about spending decisions, but they're being made at the cabinet level before money goes down to the different agencies and ministries. Okay. The Access to Information Act does not allow you to understand anything that goes on at the cabinet level. Every document is exempt. And so you ask, what happened here? And you get a response from the ATI division, I guess, of the Cabinet Office saying it's exempt. And so you just have to sit there and wait until the information minister delivers the post-cabinet press briefing with what they want to tell you happened at that meeting, when it may not have covered what it is you're looking for. Now, truth be told, some of the times you can ask the questions and they will respond, give them credit. But some of the times you want stuff on different matters that they will not address and don't have an interest in addressing. And so the fact that cabinet documents are not allowed to be shared at all is a major problem. And in fact, the document I read, if it's the correct document, as I said, because I saw this document online, if it's the correct document, it seems to indicate that one of the changes, this was from the 2011 review by the Joint Select Committee, it seems to indicate that some of the information from cabinet documents would no longer be exempt. There was a presentation today by Paul Hector. Paul Hector is at UNESCO. He made it very clear that in an ideal world, you would not have a blanket exemption on cabinet documents. There would be a test about which of these are in the public interest before there's just this blanket exemption.
Yes.
Similarly, for the other issues that they cry exemptions for, commercial interests, foreign relations, privacy, there could also be a test applied, is my desire, to see what would happen with this Access to Information Act. And bear in mind, as much as the legislation right now is being, let us say, delayed, I asked, because of Hurricane Melissa, at one of these post-cabinet press briefings, I specifically asked the Information Minister, Dana Morris-Dixon, is there a way for us to provide some kind of emergency revamp or exclusions of the ATI Act, relax certain of those exemptions so we can actually get information more easily through this perilous time? And her basic paraphrased response was, that's not our priority right now. And a lot of Jamaica may agree with her that during Melissa, that's not the priority. However, the government has done other pieces of legislation or is talking about doing other pieces of legislation during this time, as you guys have reported on as early as this week or as late as this week. And I would tell you that this information is extremely important to our democracy in terms of how money is being spent, how decisions are being spent during Hurricane Melissa. So I don't think I was asking that much. But for the government, it was not a priority. And the truth is, based on the fact that the last parliamentary committee review was 2011, revamping the full act, it does not come across as a priority for the government, which is why I'm recommending what we need to do is band together those of us who have interest in this topic and try to find a way to sue the government for inaction.
Up on a time signal, hold it there, let me take the time signal and come right back.
Jamaica, we have been tested before, and every time we rise. Together, we will rebuild stronger, safer, and united. Hope lives here. The time by the office of the Prime Minister is...
It's a minute after 7. An important conversation, an important piece of legislation, the Access to Information Act. Jamaicans for Justice released the findings of a review that they did as to how the Act actually operates. And coming out of that, Zara Burton, a senior journalist, founder at 18 Degrees North, is proposing that because of the government's slow pace of updating, amending the piece of legislation, she's recommending the government be sued. The last review happening in 2011, a joint select committee made recommendations. 16 years later, the Act has not been updated. Jade, before we lost you, I'd asked you the ministries, departments, and agencies that you found most responsive in the review. My cursory reading tells me the finance ministry was giving you some problems. Am I correct?
Yes, yes. We would have had some challenges, not just with the Ministry of Finance, but with several ministries, departments, and agencies. You know, as we would have said, in terms of the responses that we received, we would have only seen 63.8 of those requests completely fulfilled. So, you know, there is a lot of room for improvement in terms of fulfillment of these access to information requests. But of course, we have to acknowledge some of the challenges that these ministries and agencies are under in terms of the human resources that they would have to fulfill these requests. You know, we have one ATI officer in most of these ministries, agencies, departments that is responsible for all of the requests that come through, and all of the requests would need to stipulate to this 30-day timeline. So it can be taxing to expect one member of staff to be able to handle all of this responsibility, and particularly in some cases where we would have seen that this member of staff also had other responsibilities within that same ministry or department or agency. So, you know, that need for increased resources towards access to information is there. You know, also we would have seen the need for there to be a little bit more proactive disclosure. In that case, we would need to ask for less information because more information would be readily available. But, you know, the key recommendation from us is to look at the Act, that's from Jamaicans for Justice, is to look at the Act again in a joint select committee review. And why we think that is important is that we are looking at a new information age in the ways information is stored, in the ways information is transmitted. We have a new Data Protection Act and other pieces of legislation that might coincide with our Access to Information Act or may appear to do so. And so it would be prudent for us to look at this piece of legislation in this new landscape and see how best we can implement fresh recommendations.
Jade asked Zara this question, but I want to hear from you also. If the government were to act now, what would meaningful reform to the Access Information Act look like in practical terms?
Well, you know, one of the things that we want to see is an increased sense of oversight within the Act. As you would have heard, one of the challenges that we had in terms of fulfillment was sticking to that 30-day timeline, but also the fulfillment itself. And what the Act doesn't do is allow for you to probe the exact reasons why you may have had those delays. It only speaks to, you know, the content of the document that you're trying to get, and that's the only thing that your appeals tribunal or your internal review would look into. So one of the things that we recommended is to strengthen the ATI unit into an independent ATI commission that would be under the Office of the Information Commissioner, or to establish a standalone body that would have those powers to look into the compliance of the legislation as far as these ministries, departments, and agencies are concerned. Another thing that we would have looked at is to include a broad public interest override, and that's something we've seen in other jurisdictions. You know, in Part 3 of our Access to Information Act, we have several exemptions that would prevent certain information from being accessible. And while there is public interest exceptions in certain areas of the legislation, it is not across all areas. And so to see that broad public interest override would mean that in instances where this information could be of benefit to the public, the ministry, department, or agency would actually run that test to see if the information should be released rather than just dismissing the request outright. So, you know, those are some of the recommendations that we've looked at. fulsome recommendations would be in the report.
Yeah. All right. It's a conversation that should continue. I can tell you, listeners, I've utilized the act to gain information that's helped me in my reporting. So it's an important piece of legislation. And most importantly, as Zara pointed out, it's not just a tool for journalists and civil society actors. It's a tool that's available to all Jamaicans to use to gain access about the affairs of your government, and you should utilize it. So it's an important conversation. We'll continue to watch it. Zara Burton, Jade Williams, thank you so much. Really appreciate your time.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Yeah, we're going to take a quick break, go away overtime, and we're going to go to Barbados, where the Prime Minister, she has had 2 landslides, swept the parliament clean in 2 elections. Mia Mottley has called a snap election in Barbados for February 11.
In times of loss, sharing information matters. Nationwide 90 FM offers professional obituary announcements, ensuring family, friends, and communities are informed with care and dignity.
It's been a long day.
Obituaries are aired weekdays at 8:30 a.m., 12:30 p.m., and 7:30 p.m. When it's important to reach people, let us help you do so respectfully. Contact our sales team today, 876-630-1210, or sales@nationwidenewsnetwork.com for more information. Nationwide 90 FM, informing Jamaica with care.
For all your electrical needs, visit ABC Electrical Sales. They stock a wide variety of electrical supplies, including plugs, switches, panel boards, and conduits, plus energy-saving fixtures. ABC Electrical Sales stocks brands like GE, Siemens, Philips, Cutler Hammer, and Allen Bradley. They also offer free island-wide delivery just to suit your needs. Visit them at Shop 8, Hagley Park Plaza, Kingston 10, or call 876-754-3714-5 or 876-754-3825-8. ABC Electrical Sales, for a better choice in the electrical business.
Taboo topics,
Bulletins after dark,
riveting discussions,
celebrity news and interviews,
topics that are shunned by society,
and everything else in between.
Boyatings After Dark with Kareem Boyatings, each and every Wednesday, 8 to 11 p.m.
Boyatings After Dark.
No topic is too taboo or hard to discuss. Come get your mind blown and your curiosity explored.
Boyatings After Dark.
Every day, Jamaicans have something to say. In the group chats, on social media, in the streets, there's a place where it all comes together. The comment section. This is not a lecture. This is not a call-in show. This is the hottest topics of the day, filtered through real opinions, real WhatsApp messages, real voice notes, real reactions. You agree, disagree, sound off, text it, voice note it, debate it. Comments section, Monday to Friday from 7 to 7:30 p.m. only on Nationwide 90 FM, the new revolution in media.
Cliff Says is by far the most popular mid-morning radio segment in Jamaica. Cliff Hughes shares his views on the hot-button topics of the day, editorializing on various issues in the news, breaking news stories, and expounding on stories. Cliff Says sets the tone of the show for the rest of the day. Join the award-winning journalist Cliff Hughes weekdays during Cliff Hughes Online at 10 to 10:30 a.m. Join the revolution in media.
It's 11 minutes after 7. We're back with you on Nationwide at 5. We're heading to Barbados, where the Prime Minister, Mia Mottley, has called snap elections announcing February 11 as the date for national polls. Parliament is to be dissolved, or was dissolved, on January 19, and nomination day set for January 27. Motley made the announcement on Saturday.
It's the second time that the Bajan Prime Minister has called a snap election within at least 1 year remaining on her 5-year term in office. Motley led the Barbados Labour Party to a landslide 30-0 victories in both the 2018 and 2022 general elections, defeating the main opposition Democratic Labour Party. The DLP is led by King's Counsel Ralph Thorne, who took over the leadership of the party in February 2024, less than a week after he left the ruling BLP government. Well, we're now being joined by the Principal Director of the Caribbean Development Research Services, and that's Peter Wickham. Good evening, Peter.
Good evening.
Peter?
No, not hearing Peter.
I don't hear Peter at all.
Okay, we're trying to reconnect with him. This election is being closely watched, of course, because there are questions as to whether Peter Wickham?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Morning. Well, sorry, good afternoon. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Peter.
I was cut off a short second there.
Okay.
I'm back with you now.
That's fine.
Listening to your preamble. Yeah.
Yeah. So, Peter, help me then. What is your reading of PM Motley's decision to call a snap election with more than a year remaining in her term?
I mean, you said snap election. I don't know that in the context of what's going on in Barbados, people believe it's a snap election. Since August of last year, it was pretty clear that Prime Minister Motley seemed to have been considering such a thing, and indeed, it was rumored at one time that she would have gone to the polls in October. Her strategy appears to be one that says as soon as you cross the 3-year mark, that you look for an ideal opportunity to call an election. She takes the whole idea that you are entitled to call an election at a point in time which is convenient to you and politically advantageous seriously. And, you know, the point is that few leaders in the Caribbean have done it, but the reality is that she is a leader who found it successful in 2022, and she pretty much is going in that direction. So when she actually did press the button, I don't think that we were all terribly surprised, and indeed, people were a little bit surprised that she didn't call it in 2025. I think for me, the surprise was that she decided to call it on the day of the last nomination, and she didn't wait till today. Today is our Barra Day, and they're having a massive rally in the north of Barbados now. I thought that she was going to call the day on that day, and I think this is what a lot of us saw. But she went 2 days before, as I said, for reasons best known to her, and I think that that's the reading. St. Lucia went to the polls a year early. Prime Minister Philip J. Pierre just late last year, and it was very successful for him. So I think that she's in good company, and that's how I'm reading the situation.
The strength of the opposition DLP, how would you rate it or assess it?
There's very little strength. I mean, that's probably the easiest way to put it. The conversation in Barbados really right now is whether we should vote for an opposition so that there is an opposition to her. And the question as to wanting to elect anyone in particular from the Democratic Labour Party is something that people tend not to have a lot of conversation about. So it's more a question of, do we feel we should have an opposition, and if so, who? I think that that's probably the best way to put it. Opposition in Barbados is weak. The current opposition leader was, up until 2 years ago, a member of the Barbados Labour Party, who, interestingly enough, was also a member of the Democratic Labour Party before he was a member of the Barbados Labour Party, and then he rejoined the Democratic Labour Party. He's crossed the floor 3 times, which is a record in Barbados' terms. But he was very successful under the Barbados Labour Party, and he's chosen to leave, which I can understand. I mean, he wasn't a cabinet minister, and he's elevated his status by crossing to the opposition. But so this is really where the conversation is taking place. None of the 30 people who ran in the previous election, or the 30 people who ran in the election before, were elected. And it's now, fallen to a person who was elected on her ticket to lead that organization. It really is not a good time, a good day, or a good era within the Democratic Labour Party currently.
So in essence then, let me ask this question. Are there any early warning signs or vulnerabilities the governing party should be mindful of, or does this election appear largely procedural?
Yeah, I would say the warning is apathy, and I think Sanjay, you made a good point that we need to look for early warning signs. I would say if there is one, I would say be careful of apathy, be careful, of voter lethargy, and be careful of the belief that people believe that the ballot box is filled even before a single vote is cast. I think that is her major fear right now. Her major fear is that many people do not feel it makes sense for them to go out and vote because they simply know who is likely to win. And the reality is that you can very well have a situation where enough people take that view that there's this massive voter turnout that goes down. The last election was the same thing. Voter turnout was significantly down in Barbados, much like Jamaica. And in this instance, as in Jamaica, frankly, I think that a lot of people felt that there was not a lot wrong with what was in government or who was in government. And there was not a whole lot to scream about in terms of who is in opposition. So in a situation like that, if the status quo works for you, you can either vote actively for it, or alternatively, you can just stay at home and let everybody else vote actively for it.
Yeah. I'm glad you mentioned Jamaica, because there's a matter I want to raise with you, Peter. In the run-up to our election, our Prime Minister here, Andrew Holness, of course, was seeking a third term. And was granted it by the electorate, only the second Jamaican Prime Minister to achieve the feat. But there were whispers, perhaps I should say more than whispers, there were outright denunciations saying that it was somehow undemocratic, that there was a danger in a Prime Minister holding office for 3 terms. Mia Mottley, of course, swept the Bajan Parliament, holding all seats, certainly in the first term, and then you outlined what happened this go around. Are there any such concerns that Barbados may be at risk of becoming a one-party state?
Yeah, I mean, if you speak to the opposition, that's their main concern. The opposition party has been flogging this issue about Prime Minister being a dictator, the Prime Minister not wanting an opposition. They've been flogging it to death in the belief that this is something that can take them into office. I think if you ask the rest of us, I think it's fairly clear that the people of Barbados don't seem terribly concerned. If you are going to give Prime Minister Mottley 2 unprecedented 30 loves, and we only have 30 seats in our parliament, it's a lot smaller than yours. I think that speaks volumes about the level of confidence that people have in her. Because let's say we made a mistake and did it once. Would we make a mistake and do it twice?
Right.
It's clear that is the reflection of the public opinion, and this idea that we fear her political dominance. I get the impression that Prime Minister Mottley will leave politics sooner rather than later. I get the impression that she will probably be the PJ Patterson of Barbados politics, where she will come, conquer, and move on. And I think that she will properly move on into retirement, not like other leaders like John Compton that would have moved on and then come back. My sense is that is her trajectory, and we are not yet in the Ralph Gonzalez stage. Now, Ralph Gonzalez ran 5 times. You have Roosevelt Skerry, who is now on number 4. The idea that she is in that territory is not something that Barbadians have a lot of time for, and there have been 2 short terms. The terms have not been long terms. You have a 3-year term and a 4-year term. Prime Minister Owen Arthur, who was her predecessor, served 14 years before he lost the election. She's not close to that yet. So I think that such concerns are premature. Jamaica is peculiar in that you guys have had a regularity of alternation which has been admirable up until PJ Patterson decided to disrupt that momentum. And I would say that since then, Jamaica has not really settled back into this 2-term shift. But up until then, yours is the most predictable outcome, that you give 2 terms to one person, you give 2 terms to the other person. But in Barbados, we had a similar thing up until the Barbados Democratic Labour Party lost. Then Owen Arthur did 3. And, we've had then a return to 2. And now, this is her 2nd term. I would be surprised if she doesn't get a 3rd. And then, but it's not in danger territory yet.
Yeah.
And if we see another 30, Jamaicans would say 30 love, Peter, is there a risk then that repeated landslide outcomes will weaken the role of the opposition politics and the scrutiny more generally within the country?
Yeah, Sanjay, that is exactly the conversation that this is exactly the conversation the Democratic Labour Party wants Barbadians to have with themselves. So they want us to say we should not put 30 Love more on Mia Motley's plate because it's bad for the opposition, it's bad for governance, and that we should think about that when we're voting. I don't really get the impression that bothers Barbadians a whole lot. I don't get the impression that Barbadians are concerned about that. Democracy, in my view, is being weakened by the fact that the Democratic Labour Party has made so many unforced errors. And I mean, I think that what has happened within the DLP is tragic. Look, they had 10 years in office, 7 of which was under the worst leadership that we have ever possibly had in Barbados, and indeed some of the worst leadership that we've ever had in the Caribbean. Frendel Stewart was essentially tolerated by the Democratic Labour Party. He won an election in 2013. The reasons for that we can probably go into sometime later. But in the final analysis, even up to his second term, he was the only person that ran a 60 months in office, and then he kept us waiting for 2 more months. Parliament dissolved itself before he set a date. I mean, the whole thing was a complete and total farce. And we had a situation where we had a leader in office who was not running the country. We had raw sewage flowing on the streets. We had no end of problems. Barbados is spending 60 cents out of every dollar in terms of our debt service. Nothing was happening in social services. That individual lost the election. He ran against Mia Motley. She beat him soundly. And we have seen a different type of governance since. Now, my sense is that the Democratic Labour Party had opportunities while in opposition that they could have redeemed themselves, and they scuttled all of those opportunities. They had 2 by-elections, which they lost in spectacular fashion. The most recent one, you put a candidate in place at the 11th hour. She was a horrible candidate. And then you say that this is a referendum on the government, when you know full well that it's one of the safest seats in Barbados, and there was no way that they would have lost. So the strategy is poor, the thinking is poor, the leadership has left much to be desired. I think that this situation of us not having opposition is the Democratic Labour Party's problem. And I am not prepared to give them a single quarter by suggesting that the danger that is being caused to democracy in Barbados is Mia Motley's problem. And Mia Motley's doing what her leader should do, try to win an election.
Yeah.
I work with political parties all across the Caribbean, and they say you want to win the election, but that's what you're supposed to do. Her winning is not a democracy problem. The inability of the Democratic Labour Party in a situation where you have no seats. I mean, you can't win a single seat in an election? Come off it. I mean, you must be able to win a seat. You know, and then the kind of tragic stuff that's going on in an election campaign at the 11th hour. I mean, people are watching this thing and saying, but are these people serious? The same Frendel Stewart, you put him on the platform at the eve of the last election, and he said, the 10 years that we thought were lost, these were glorious years. I mean, come on. You know, it is as though the stuff that Donald Trump is talking about now on a national stage, where he is able to say things to people which we know are patently untrue and have people believe them. It's as though that happens in the real world. And you know, I keep making the point that it doesn't, you don't find people like Donald Trump getting away with stuff like that during an election in a thinking population, because people will reject all of that stuff, but we are being asked to accept it. So yeah, so there we are. That's the threat to democracy, the Democratic Labour Party.
Peter, from my vantage point here in Jamaica, obviously I don't know what's happening on the ground in Barbados, but I do follow my tweets, comments online from Bajans, and I'm picking up a sense that there is, I put it no smaller than a subsection, elements in the Bajan population, and their position is that Mia Motley has focused more on her international standing rather than domestic affairs of Barbados. And for that reason, there are questions as to whether she's simply using this opportunity to launch herself forward, perhaps to become the Secretary General of the UN or some other high international post. And any credibility to those allegations?
Yeah, and I would say that if there's anything the Democratic Labour Party has done, is that they have used social media with their proxies to convince the world that a lot of these things are entirely true, right? They have used it well, and I think the fact that you are of this view is not surprising, because I speak to people across the world and they are all of the view, well, similarly of the view as you are, that they're hearing this stuff and they're saying, well, this must be coming from somewhere. And I can tell you where it's coming from. I mean, there's a select group of people who are very, very vocal, who support the Democratic Labour Party, that are basically putting this thing out and saying it's all about Mia Mottley. But if you look at the facts, Prime Minister Mottley went into office when we were facing a horrible domestic situation. She identified, I think it was 6 key points in terms of the things that she wanted to improve in Barbados. All of them, bar none, have gotten better. When people say to me that she's all about herself, I say to them, you tell me if you think honestly that Barbados is worse off than we were in 2018 when she got into office. We have the largest fleet of electric buses running in this country, in a situation where 7 years ago when she came into office, there were people in rural parishes that were waiting 4-5 hours for a bus. Those same people are sitting on air-conditioned buses and complaining about the fact that the internet on those buses is not working today, right? We have a situation where in 2018 we have raw sewage flowing on the street, and of course we have potholes on some of those streets still, but ultimately, you know, a lot of them are being repaired, but there's definitely no raw sewage. The debt service situation that I told you about was 60 cents in every dollar. Barbados has now regained its credit worthiness. We had about 6 downgrades. We are now at the stage where we have had an equal number of upgrades, and the economic situation has improved significantly to the point where Barbados is able to borrow again. We had a significant loan that we took from the Chinese recently on the open market that has been addressing a number of structural issues in terms of roads in the Scotland district that have been problematic for probably about 20 years. So my sense is that the idea that her international image, it is what it is, and I'm not denying that she has an awesome international image. I was watching Trevor Noah interviewing her as I was preparing for this interview, and I'm thinking to myself, yeah, I mean, she's definitely out there, there's no question about it, but the point of the matter is I think Barbadians have benefited significantly from it. You know, I don't live in Barbados, I live in France, and you know, invariably when people who are familiar with the Caribbean meet me, they speak of Prime Minister Mottley, and they're all fascinated. I went to watch her speak once in France, in Paris. And again, there was a lot of hub and excitement. So I'm just saying that the ideas of her grandeur, so to speak, I don't know whether she plans to try for the post of Secretary General of the United Nations. But I tell you, she did succeed in that regard. I would be tremendously proud of her. You know, I would be tremendously proud of her. And in much the same way that I would have been proud if your Minister of Foreign Affairs had made it to Secretary General of the Commonwealth recently. So I don't hold that against her. As I said, I think in all of this, we have raised money on the international market. There's a climate change initiative that she has been behind, which has essentially President Macron has been excited about it. And that has raised a ton of money for Barbados. We have a roof-to-reef program, where we have been generating a lot of money to help environmental issues on the coast, to deal with problems created during the hurricane from the boats. People are getting money to help fix the roof. We have a solar initiative that is the envy of many in Barbados, where persons are getting financial assistance to do photovoltaic and establish those in houses. Things are happening, and I mean, I'm not suggesting that Prime Minister Mottley is perfect. Barbados has a problem with our cost of living, which is completely out of control, as is the case in Jamaica. We have a problem with crime that is problematic, as is the case in Jamaica. And
some Jamaicans would say less so now.
Well, yes, and I congratulate you for that, because your zonal program has been copied by Kamala Persaud in Trinidad and Tobago. So you're having zonal states of emergency being declared, and it's supposed to be helping. So if that works, you know, I say well done to you. So, you know, you struggle with these things, and you know, I'm not by any chance saying that Prime Minister Mottley is perfect. But I do feel that we have made significant progress on a number of issues, and And I'm really happy about that.
Yeah. All right, we'll continue to watch the developments. Peter Wickham, thank you so much for your perspectives. Appreciate it.
All the best, Peter.
My pleasure. Good chatting with you guys.
All the best.
Take care.
Yeah, so as I said to Cliff earlier today, Sanjay, I think it's going to be another 30 love.
Oh, yes. Absolutely.
We'll
And just
see.
based on what Peter is saying and the opposition clearly not being organized, it's going to be another 30 love, of course.
Yeah. All right, Dana, do we take the break or just go straight to Prime Minister Carney? All right, let's take a short break and then we'll bring you Prime Minister of Canada, Mark Carney.
Make an impact on your career. Earn real money. Get 3 to 4 local and international certification in practical nursing and early childhood education with free CXC or CAPE subjects in 6 to 12 months at Distinction College, located at 26 Hagley Park Road, Kingston, 6 Nugent Street, Spanish Town, and Ocho Rios. Earn global certificates in 3 months in geriatric nursing, phlebotomy, childcare. We have the lowest school fees around. Classes begin very soon. Call us 356-4167.
All right, so a lot has been happening on the international scene, and today in Switzerland, the Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney, he gave a forceful speech at the World Economic Forum in Davos. He talked about the new world order, and we think it's so important. We want to play it for you. He talked about how middle powers can benefit by working together. Here is the full address of the Canadian Prime Minister.
Thank you very much, Larry. I'm going to start in French and then I'll switch back to English. Merci, Larry. C'est un plaisir et un devoir d'être parmi vous en ce point tournant pour le Canada et pour le monde. Et je parlerai aujourd'hui de la rupture de l'ordre mondial, de la fin d'une fiction agréable et du début d'une réalité brutale où la géopolitique des grandes puissances n'est soumise à aucune contrainte. Mais je vous soumets, par ailleurs, que les autres pays, en particulier les puissances moyennes comme le Canada, ne sont pas impuissants. Ils possèdent la capacité de construire une nouvelle ordre qui intègre nos valeurs, comme le respect des droits humains, le développement durable, la solidarité, la souveraineté et l'intégrité territoriale des États. La puissance des moins puissants commence par l'honnêteté. It seems that every day we're reminded that we live in an era of great power rivalry, that the rules-based order is fading, that the strong can do what they can and the weak must suffer what they must. And this aphorism of Thucydides is presented as inevitable, as the natural logic of international relations reasserting itself. And faced with this logic, there is a strong tendency for countries to go along to get along, to accommodate, to avoid trouble, to hope that compliance will buy safety. Well, it won't. So what are our options? In 1978, the Czech dissident Václav Havel, later president, wrote an essay called The Power of the Powerless. And in it, he asked a simple question: how did the communist system sustain itself? And his answer began with a greengrocer. Every morning, this shopkeeper places a sign in his window: "Workers of the world unite." He doesn't believe it. No one does. But he places the sign anyway to avoid trouble, to signal compliance, to get along. And because every shopkeeper on every street does the same, the system persists. Not through violence alone, but through the participation of ordinary people in rituals they privately know to be false. Havel called this living within a lie. The system's power comes not from its truth, but from everyone's willingness to perform as if it were true. and its fragility comes from the same source. When even one person stops performing, when the greengrocer removes his sign, the illusion begins to crack. Friends, it is time for companies and countries to take their signs down. For decades, countries like Canada prospered under what we called the rules-based international order. We joined its institutions, we praised its principles, we benefited from its predictability. And because of that, we could pursue values-based foreign policies under its protection. We knew the story of the international rules-based order was partially false, that the strongest would exempt themselves when convenient, that trade rules were enforced asymmetrically. And we knew that international law applied with varying rigor depending on the identity of the accused or the victim. This fiction was useful, and American hegemony in particular helped provide public goods, open sea lanes, a stable financial system, collective security, and support for frameworks for resolving disputes. So we placed the sign in the window. We participated in the rituals, and we largely avoided calling out the gaps between rhetoric and reality. This bargain no longer works. Let me be direct. We are in the midst of a rupture, not a transition. Over the past 2 decades, a series of crises in finance, health, energy, and geopolitics have laid bare the risks of extreme global integration. But more recently, great powers have begun using economic integration as weapons. Tariffs as leverage, financial infrastructure as coercion, supply chains as vulnerabilities to be exploited. You cannot live within the lie of mutual benefit through integration when integration becomes the source of your subordination. The multilateral institutions on which the middle powers have relied, the WTO, the UN, the COP, the architecture, the very architecture of collective problem solving are under threat. And as a result, many countries are drawing the same conclusions, that they must develop greater strategic autonomy in energy, food, critical minerals, in finance and supply chains. And this impulse is understandable. A country that can't feed itself, fuel itself, or defend itself has few options. When the rules no longer protect you, you must protect yourself. But let's be clear-eyed about where this leads. A world of fortresses will be poorer, more fragile, and less sustainable. And there's another truth. If great powers abandon even the pretense of rules and values for the unhindered pursuit of their power and interests, the gains from transactionalism will become harder to replicate. Hegemons cannot continually monetize their relationships. Allies will diversify to hedge against uncertainty. They'll buy insurance, increase options in order to rebuild sovereignty. Sovereignty that was once grounded in rules but will increasingly be anchored in the ability to withstand pressure. This room knows this is classic risk management. Risk management comes at a price. But that cost of strategic autonomy, of sovereignty, can also be shared. Collective investments in resilience are cheaper than everyone building their own fortresses. Shared standards reduce fragmentations. Complementarities are positive sum. And the question for middle powers like Canada is not whether to adapt to the new reality. We must. The question is whether we adapt by simply building higher walls or whether we can do something more ambitious. Now, Canada was amongst the first to hear the wake-up call, leading us to fundamentally shift our strategic posture. Canadians know that our old, comfortable assumptions that our geography and alliance memberships automatically conferred prosperity and security, that assumption is no longer valid. And our new approach rests on what Alexander Stubb, the President of Finland, has termed value-based realism. Or to put another way, we aim to be both principled and pragmatic. Principled in our commitment to fundamental values, sovereignty, territorial integrity, the prohibition of the use of force except when consistent with the UN Charter, and respect for human rights. And pragmatic in recognizing that progress is often incremental, that interests diverge, that not every partner will share all of our values. So we're engaging broadly, strategically, with open eyes. We actively take on the world as it is, not wait around for a world we wish to be. We are calibrating our relationships so their depth reflects our values. And we're prioritizing broad engagement to maximize our influence, given the fluidity of the world at the moment, the risks that this poses, and the stakes for what comes next. And we are no longer just relying on the strength of our values, but also the value of our strength. We are building that strength at home. Since my government took office, we have cut taxes on incomes, on capital gains and business investment. We have removed all federal barriers to interprovincial trade. We are fast-tracking $1 trillion of investments in energy, AI, critical minerals, new trade corridors, and beyond. We're doubling our defense spending by the end of this decade, and we're doing so in ways that build our domestic industries. And we are rapidly diversifying abroad. We've agreed a comprehensive strategic partnership with the EU, including joining SAFE, the European Defence Procurement Arrangements. We have signed 12 other trade and security deals on 4 continents in 6 months. In the past few days, we've concluded new strategic partnerships with China and Qatar. We're negotiating free trade pacts with India, ASEAN, Thailand, Philippines, and Mercosur. We're doing something else. To help solve global problems, we're pursuing variable geometry. In other words, different coalitions for different issues based on common values and interests. So on Ukraine, we're a core member of the Coalition of the Willing and one of the largest per capita contributors to its defense and security. On Arctic sovereignty, we stand firmly with Greenland and Denmark and fully support their unique right to determine Greenland's future. Our commitment to NATO's Article 5 is unwavering. So we're working with our NATO allies, including the Nordic-Baltic 8, to further secure the alliance's northern and western flanks, including through Canada's unprecedented investments in over-the-horizon radar, in submarines, in aircraft, and boots on the ground, boots on the ice. Canada strongly opposes tariffs over Greenland and calls for focused talks to achieve our shared objectives of security and prosperity in the Arctic. On plurilateral trade, we're championing efforts to build a bridge between the Trans-Pacific Partnership and the European Union, which would create a new trading bloc of 1.5 billion people. On critical minerals, we're forming buyers' clubs anchored in the G7 so that the world can diversify away from concentrated supply. And on AI, we're cooperating with like-minded democracies to ensure that we won't ultimately be forced to choose between hegemons and hyperscalers. This is not naive multilateralism, nor is it relying on their institutions. It's building coalitions that work, issues by issue, with partners who share enough common ground to act together. In some cases, this will be the vast majority of nations. What it's doing is creating a dense web of connections across trade, investment, culture, on which we can draw for future challenges and opportunities. Argue the middle powers must act together because if we're not at the table, we're on the menu. But I'd also say that great powers can afford for now to go it alone. They have the market size, the military capacity, and the leverage to dictate terms. Middle powers do not. But when we only negotiate bilaterally with a hegemon, we negotiate from weakness. We accept what's offered. We compete with each other to be the most accommodating. This is not sovereignty. It's the performance of sovereignty while accepting subordination. In a world of great power rivalry, the countries in between have a choice: compete with each other for favor, or to combine to create a third path with impact. We shouldn't allow the rise of hard power to blind us to the fact that the power of legitimacy, integrity, and rules will remain strong if we choose to wield them together. Which brings me back to Havel. What does it mean for middle powers to live the truth? Well, first, it means naming reality. Stop invoking rules-based international order as though it still functions as advertised. Call it what it is: a system of intensifying great power rivalry where the most powerful pursue their interests using economic integration as coercion. It means acting consistently, applying the same standards to allies and rivals. When middle powers criticize economic intimidation from one direction but stay silent when it comes from another, we are keeping the sign in the window. It means building what we claim to believe in. Rather than waiting for the old order to be restored, it means creating institutions and agreements that function as described. And it means reducing the leverage that enables coercion. That's building a strong domestic economy. It should be every government's immediate priority. And diversification internationally is not just economic prudence, it's a material foundation for honest foreign policy, because countries earn the right to principled stands by reducing their vulnerability to retaliation. So Canada. Canada has what the world wants. We are an energy superpower. We hold vast reserves of critical minerals. We have the most educated population in the world. Our pension funds are amongst the world's largest and most sophisticated investors. In other words, we have capital, talent. We also have a government with immense fiscal capacity to act decisively. And we have the values to which many others aspire. Canada is a pluralistic society that works. Our public square is loud, diverse, and free. Canadians remain committed to sustainability. We are a stable and reliable partner in a world that is anything but. A partner that builds and values relationships for the long term. And we have something else. We have a recognition of what's happening and a determination to act accordingly. We understand that this rupture calls for more than adaptation. It calls for honesty about the world as it is. We are taking the sign out of the window. We know the old order is not coming back. We shouldn't mourn it. Nostalgia is not a strategy. But we believe that from the fracture, we can build something bigger, better, stronger, more just. This is the task of the middle powers. The countries that have the most to lose from a world of fortresses and a most to gain from genuine cooperation. The powerful have their power. But we have something too. The capacity to stop pretending, to name reality, to build our strength at home, and to act together. That is Canada's path. We choose it openly and confidently, and it is a path wide open to any country willing to take it with us. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you, Prime Minister. I don't think I've seen many standing ovations at Davos, so that was interesting. You said, there was a phrase in your speech where you said sovereignty now is the ability to withstand pressure. Isn't Canada almost uniquely vulnerable to pressure because of the extent of your trade dependence on the United States?
Well, the proof is that we have been able to withstand the pressure, and there has been considerable pressure. I'll give you a couple of facts. We've actually created more jobs in since the tariffs were put on than the United States in absolute number. Economy is growing at the second fastest rate within the G7. That's not there are pockets of extreme pressure without question in Canada. But headline, we're reacting. The second thing, and it's a fundamental point, is the recognition that we can give ourselves far more than any foreign country can take away. There's lots of efficiencies in having one Canadian market, the $1 trillion of domestic investment, and building these partnerships abroad, all of which are bigger returns than what's been lost. That's not to say we would rather not lose it, but we can withstand the pressure, and we are.
And I was interested that you said basically the old world's not coming back. So you're not seeing this as a period where you just have to get through and normalcy will return.
I think that is our view. And we regret it, but we're not going to sit around and mourn it. We're acting. And we're acting in a way, both that's in our interests, but we believe in a way with others that's building imperfectly in steps a new system. I'll give you one example and hand back, which is we are members of trade agreements that comprise already 1.4 billion people around the world. So we have the most extensive network. We are trying with others to bring some of those networks together. The most prominent example is the Trans-Pacific Partnership in the EU, acting as a bridge. It's not a direct benefit for Canada, but it is a benefit for Canada that these groups come together. Ngozi is here, consistent with the WTO rules, both of which are. And in that way, we're building back out amongst willing partners.
And you talked about the need not to put the sign in the window anymore, to pretend that things are still the same. Do you think, to put it directly, that the NATO alliance is still doing that, still pretending it's the old transatlantic partnership, when it's really kind of going?
Well, I think clearly NATO is experiencing a test right now, and the first response to that test has to be to respond in a way that ensures the security of the Arctic in a robust way for all possibilities. This is actually a point that we have been making in recent years. It's a point that I made at the NATO summit back in June, which seemed like a pledging summit, but also was to get NATO policies in the right direction. So I think in the immediate term, one of the imperatives is to reinforce things that Canada is doing, Nordic Baltic 8 are doing, the UK are doing, other NATO partners, France included, in a comprehensive way that provides much greater security in the Arctic. This is the test, and so I wouldn't say the NATO sign stays in the window, but we've got to meet the moment of that.
You also, a big theme of your speech was the need for middle powers to work together. Yeah. But you've just been to the other great power, to China. And I think people are very intrigued by seeing that meeting. And some people say, kind of, that's a mistake, really, because you're going to make yourself more dependent on China. They're not that benign either. The US will be very annoyed. What's the defense of what you're doing, and what do you hope to get out of it?
Well, the first thing is to say it's not a defense. It's an it's building out. It's something positive as opposed to against. We're for something as opposed to being against. The second is there are very clear guardrails in that relationship. I spoke of calibration of relationships in my remarks. That's what I mean by it. But within those clear guardrails are huge opportunities in energy, both clean and conventional, obviously in motor vehicles, in agriculture, in financial services, all of which is mutually beneficial. So it's additive. And look, it's the second largest economy and it's our second largest trading partner. We should have a strategic partnership with them within those guardrails, and that's what we've achieved.
And it is an interesting reversal, though, because I think certainly during the Biden administration, there was this sense that the Western world was trying to decouple from China, or de-risk at least, and is now in this new world that really going to go into reverse, and de-risking from China because there are other risks is less of a thing.
You need, again, many in this room, this is their livelihood, you need a web of connections. And to miss out in that web some of the largest ones, United States, we already have that, China, India, Mercosur, European Union, that's a mistake. That's not managing your relationships properly. That makes you stronger, makes you more resilient. And then on top of that, I'll give you again, I'll appeal since it's in the headlines to the Nordics. Nordics plus Canada, it's 20% of global GDP. It's not the first thing people would realize. But that relationship, which is deepening for security reasons, because we're like-minded, those are the types of partnerships that I think we'll see more of.
And you got a round of applause when you said something strong about standing on principle on Greenland. Do you think we can find an off-ramp on that? I mean, I'm sure you'll speak of it, but put it this way, if there isn't an off-ramp, where does this go?
I strongly believe that there's a better outcome that come from the discussions that have been catalyzed in an unusual way, admittedly, but and we absolutely stand by the principles that I referenced. That solution starts with security, and a security, yes, of Greenland, but more broadly of the Arctic. Canada is foursquare contributing to that. We're at the start of a major ramp up above and beyond, so we'll be a major contributor to that. NATO has to deliver on that. We're working intensively in order to do it. As well, prosperity for the people of Greenland. In the end, it comes back to the people there, and there are opportunities to do that in ways that would strengthen all of the alliance.
And when President Trump says, oh, you know, Greenland's under threat from Russia, even from China, is that for real?
I would say that there are threat. Russia is without question a threat in the Arctic, without question. Russia does lots of horrible things, and I'll take the opportunity to condemn their unjustified and horrific assault on Ukraine, almost at its fourth year. They are a real threat in the Arctic, one against we need to protect, which is why we have 364 5-day air, sea, and land presence. It's why we're adding to our submarine fleet, adding to our air fighter fleet.
And that is how we pull the curtains down on Nationwide at 5 for this Wednesday afternoon. Special thanks to our producer, Dana Davey, our news and production team, our in-studio engineer, Andrew Anderson, and to you, our listeners. On behalf of my co-host, Ricardo Brooks, my name is Sanjay Lewis, wishing for you a wonderful evening. Good night.
For a limited time, Home International Limited is offering a special price on select Korean colors. You can't miss this.